What's up? What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the David Carson Show. Not really sure why it does this weird thing that it does now, but here I am. Welcome back. I took a few days off for my birthday, and then that just coincides with Labor Day. I was born on Labor Day, actually. Fun fact. It coincides with Labor Day, so it's such a slow news week anyways. I probably could have managed to find some stuff, but I'm like, I took 4 days off, and I'm back now, and I'm like, okay, I have a few out of the 10 stories I'm covering. There are a few that I had to leave out, but I'll just get to them tomorrow. So, it took a few days off. I've been grinding super hard, so I figured I'd take a few days off, enjoy my birthday and everything. But now we are back, and we have some very interesting stories. First of all, Kamala Harris says she is ready to take over. Yeah, I'm glad she thinks so, but I would disagree. New emails show Biden colluded with Hunter in business deals. Proud Boys leader Enrique Tarrio gets 22 years in prison, even though he wasn't even at January 6th. Insanity. AOC called out for offensive meeting with leftist leaders in Latin America. Judge orders Texas to remove border buoys. Corrupt judge. I hate that guy. New hurricane forms in the Atlantic. Very scary stuff. It's already tracking to hit a Category 5, so that's pretty wild. Karine, Jean-Pierre roasted for explanation of Biden's awkward exit. Democrats file new lawsuit to remove Trump from the 2024 ballot in Colorado. More insanity, as usual. One of America's busiest airports overrun by migrants. And I repeat myself, more insanity. Immigrants overrun New York City, paving the way for a Trump 2024 win over Biden. Very interesting stuff, but let's dive right into it, shall we? Kamala Harris says she is ready to take over. Here's a clip.
Throughout American history, presidents used foreign summits as an opportunity to forge alliances, negotiate trade deals, and stop deadly conflict. Franklin Roosevelt used the Yalta Conference to put an end to World War II. Ronald Reagan used his meeting with Gorbachev in Geneva to mark the beginning of the end of the Cold War. Donald Trump's summit in Singapore with Kim Jong-un significantly eased tensions on the Korean Peninsula. But when the American president doesn't show up, our allies and enemies notice. And Joe Biden just no-showed the ASEAN summit in Indonesia. This is the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. Indonesia is hosting this year. It has the largest economy in Southeast Asia and is a key strategic ally to contain the Chinese. The Washington Post calls Biden's no-show a mistake. It's one thing to skip the dinner at the summit, as Biden often does.
Of course it's a mistake.
The whole summit is suspicious, especially considering the influence the Chinese have on the Bidens. And it's not like Biden's busy visiting East Palestine. Next week, he's supposed to fly out to India and then Vietnam. Back-to-back Asian jaunts would likely be too taxing on the president, so the president sent Kamala instead. And if you've ever wondered what a Harris presidency would look like, feast your eyes on this. We just realized we haven't seen much of Kamala recently, but we did some digging. Since the Biden-Harris re-election campaign announcement in April, Kamala has had 27 days with nothing on her schedule.
Wow.
A month off.
A whole month?
We have no idea where Kamala's been or
she's
who
like
she's
Joe Biden.
been with, what she's been doing. And it's interesting that Kamala has had a whole month off this summer and no one noticed. The events she has done are not what you'd consider substantive. Greetings for the LSU women's basketball squad, attending a concert on Juneteenth and being the artificial intelligence czar. But I have Biden sent Kamala
How's she qualified to be that?
Like wearing the colorful shirts. Now, Primetime's told all leaders are required to sport these locally woven button-downs. And I, for one, think Kamala strikes a formidable and fashionable statement. Last year, Biden, safe to say, did not pull off the look.
Oh, geez. He looks like the creepy grandpa that he is.
So Kamala was in charge, and she granted an interview to the AP. The reporter basically asked her, "Why are you here?" And this was her answer.
I feel very strongly about the importance as a general matter of engaging in U.S. policy as it relates to foreign
You think she's going to mention a
affairs
diagram?
in a way that we pay attention, of course, to the immediate concerns and threats if they exist, but that we also pay attention to 10, 20, 30 years down the line and what we are developing now that will be to the
This woman
benefit
can
of
now
our
speak.
country.
It's crazy. She's even a politician. She's
I'm
so
gonna read you
long-winded.
word for word what she just said. Ready? I feel very strongly about the importance as a general matter of engaging in U.S. policy as it relates to foreign affairs in a way that we pay attention, of course, to the immediate concerns and threats if they exist, but that we also pay attention to 10, 20, 30 years down the line and what we are developing now that will be to the benefit of our country then. Why does she make it so hard? Just say you're executing the Biden foreign policy in the Pacific to strengthen our partnerships and our military alliances.
Hey, bro, at least she didn't talk about diagrams or buses, okay? Give her a little bit of credit. Maybe she's improving a tiny little bit.
As we see the rise of China. That's it. Why can I do that and she can't? But Kamala broke some big news.
She's very unqualified for her job.
When asked about Joe's health, she said she's ready to take over the job of president. But she says, don't worry, the president's fine. Not great, just fine.
Do you feel prepared for that possibility? And serving as vice president prepared you for that job?
Yes. I'm answering your hypothetical. But Joe Biden's going to be fine. Right. So that is not going to come to fruition. But let us also understand that every vice president understands that when they take the
how
oath,
she talks,
that they must be very clear about the responsibility they may have to take over the job of being president. I am no different.
When a woman says everything's fine, is it? And Kamala isn't like all the other vice presidents. She's serving under the oldest president in the history of America. What you should have said is that the president's in great shape and it's not even an issue I've ever even thought about. That's it. So why didn't Kamala cackle? Why was she so somber and explicit about the succession plan? Well, the Harris White House is coming into sharper focus. She's watching the throne. The choreography is crystal clear, strutting through columns of armed men, the pageantry, the pomp and circumstance. Signals to Democrats.
Did she just set this up herself?
This is how you do it, and don't you dare stop it. In fact, Team Kamala is leaking that if Newsom challenges her for the nomination, she'd paint him as racist. But the new Biden biography portrays a Kamala Harris not as powerful, but as picky, petty, and
what an idiot. Yeah, that's going to work.
Biden's chief of staff, Ron Klain, found Kamala to be a lost cause. Quote, he felt Harris kept making life excessively difficult by imposing all sorts of constraints on herself. She told him that she didn't want to work on women's issues or anything to do with race.
What?
She wanted her office to be majority female and to have a black woman as chief of staff. To Klain's ear, she was creating too many rules, and they made it hard for her to find her footing. Kamala didn't want to work on female or black issues, but she wanted a majority of her staff to be female or black. The Biden biographer also said that Kamala quit her job as border czar. Quote, she let the criticism guide her. Instead of diligently sticking to the Central America assignment, she seemed to accept the conventional wisdom about it. It was a futile gig. Biden making her border czar felt like a sadistic hazing ritual. The Biden-Kamala weekly lunches have almost stopped completely.
Wow.
The biographer says Biden didn't feel especially obliged.
They don't even have weekly
along.
lunches.
And behind the scenes, Joe Biden was openly joking about replacing Kamala with Dr. Fauci. He wanted another old white male. Biden would jokingly direct Fauci to sit in the vice president's chair.
That is kind of funny,
aside,
you know.
Joe Biden didn't
I don't
put
think
much
Biden's
stock
funny,
into
but that is
Kamala's
funny.
political future, and is running for re-election because he believes Kamala would get smoked in a general.
I think he looks at the threat that Trump poses to the country and he says, I'm the safest bet in that battle against Trump, which is obviously an incredibly subjective analysis, but it is grounded on the fact that he actually is the Democrat who beat Trump in 2020. And also, if there was a primary and if you just don't know what happens when you open up the doors to an alternative.
Someone who deftly zeroed in on the Biden-Harris conundrum was Nikki Haley, who said this.
Kamala is not up for the job, and I will continue to say a vote for Joe Biden is a vote for Kamala Harris. That's who we're actually running against.
Hey, Sean Hannity here.
Yeah, who cares what Nikki Haley thinks? Yeah, but it's funny that Kamala's is like, I'm ready. I'm ready for the job. Of course she wants it. She's been zeroing in on it for day one, since day one. Do you think like every vice president pretty much is like that though? But yeah, she's like, oh, I'm gonna give me it, give me it, give me it, give me it. And then she gets replaced. Wouldn't that be wild? Has that ever happened? Like not in modern American history, right? Where a president runs again, the incumbent, but they get a different vice president. That would be very interesting. He goes against Gavin Newsom instead. He won't, though. He'll just keep this idiot, which is funny because it's obviously because of her race and her gender why I even picked her in the first place. But now it's just like people see her all the time on the national stage, and it's like, ooh, I don't know how much that's important anymore. But I will leave it there. Let's move on to the next story. New emails show Biden colluded with Hunter in business deals. Here's a clip.
All right, tonight we have brand new details on how Joe, I never talked business with my son, Biden, did talk about Hunter's business dealings.
Of course he did.
And
we all knew.
The president had his office involved. House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer today demanding that the National Archives provide unredacted emails and documents related to the vice president's office colluding with the Biden family and their business associates. Here's one example. December 4th, 2015. Hunter's longtime business partner, Eric Schroyer, wrote to then VP Comms Director Kate Bedingfield, giving her quotes she could use from Hunter regarding his work with Burisma. She responded, VP signed off on this, and that she would provide a statement from Joe's office on Burisma as well.
Oh, wow.
So, how could Joe Biden, who claims he's never spoken to his son about his business dealings, which we never believed, sign off on quotes about those dealings? Now, even the White House press corps thought something is fishy here today.
How do you respond to criticism that shows there was no wall between then Vice President Biden's work and his family's business dealings?
I understand the question. I appreciate the question. I get the question. I'm just going to let the White House counsel team answer that question.
Yeah, I bet she is. Joining me now, House Oversight Committee Chair
James know what
Comer. Congressman, you and I have suspected this all along. Something else, though, happened the same day the White House received that email. What was it?
Well, they had the meeting, and we've had testimony, and there's emails. There's more evidence of more meetings where Hunter was told that they needed to call Washington for help. We've had Devin Archer testify and say that. There's evidence that points that the Burisma executives were squeezing Hunter Biden to call Washington for help. So we know that Hunter Biden was communicating with the White House. This email that you just posted was one of many, and we believe there are more that the archives are sitting on, where the Hunter Biden legal team, the Hunter Biden PR people, the Hunter Biden's shady characters who were paying him were communicating through him to his father back and forth. There was no wall between Joe Biden and his son Hunter Biden and his shady business dealings.
So the meeting among the Burisma executives happening, clearly they needed a lifeline of some sort or some type of reassurance. And it's your contention or supposition at this point that at that point Hunter kicked in, got word through Schroyer to the comms director, comms staffer at the White House, and then she sought to reassure, saying, yes, the vice president has signed off on these quotes. That's what you're seing so far.
Yeah, Hunter Biden has been in trouble for a long time. Burisma was a corrupt energy company. That's why Shokin, the Ukrainian prosecutor, was investigating him for the first place. Remember, Shokin even seized some assets from the owners of Burisma in other countries. This is a corrupt entity. The press was picking up on this, and the Biden, Hunter's legal team, Hunter's PR people, whoever they were communicating back and forth with Joe Biden, who was vice president, so they can be an official government position on this, an official government statement to the press corps, reassuring everyone that everything was fine and everything was on the up and up. This is further coordination between Hunter Biden and the federal government and Joe Biden. And remember, we believe there's coordination between the Department of Justice and the cover-up. There's two crimes here, the actual Biden corruption and then the cover-up. And all along the way, there have been people coordinating, people representing Hunter Biden, who were paying Hunter Biden, people who were representing him in court, people who were in trouble, just like Hunter Biden, for crimes. And they were communicating back and forth with our federal government to cover up this crime and to make sure that they could spin the false narrative.
Congressman, how deep could this go? Like, how many people were involved in covering this up so it wouldn't come out? Wouldn't come out during the Obama administration and toward the end of it. And it certainly wouldn't come out when Biden was running for president. I mean, how many people are we talking about, you think?
Well, let's start at the top. We know Merrick Garland has told the National Archives not to cooperate with us. We know that someone told the IRS whistleblowers to stand down. We know that just this week there were Secret Service agents who were working with us on trying to identify the people who tipped off the Biden legal team that the IRS was fixing to knock on the door. And our sources at the Secret Service say that Mayorkas called them to tell them to stop cooperating with Comer and the Oversight Committee. So Mayorkas and Merrick Garland are part of the cover-up. These are the two arguably highest-ranking people in the Biden administration.
Congressman, and about that fateful day we were discussing when that communication between Hunter's partner Schroyer and the White House comms director, didn't the vice president travel somewhere right after that? And where was that?
He traveled to Ukraine right after that.
Oh,
I mean, we're putting together the timeline. We've been able to get all of the wire transfers. We've got the correspondence. We've got sworn testimony. Now we're putting the timeline traveling where Joe Biden traveled. And there's a pattern here, Laura. He did this in Romania. He did this in China. He did this in Ukraine. The three countries that have paid his family millions and millions of dollars that they can't account for. Never, not one time has anyone from the White House or anyone from representing Joe Biden said exactly what this family did to receive the money. I think we're starting to figure it out, especially with Ukraine. He went there to fire the prosecutor who was investigating his son for corruption.
And going for another $1 billion to Ukraine yesterday through Blinken. Congressman, thank you so much.
Hey, Sean. It's all so wild, isn't it? They're just getting the whole timeline. It's crazy because the other side, they're all like, Trump is so bad. Trump is so bad. He's corrupt. He did all this corrupt stuff. I mean, look at what he did. He didn't put the bookkeeping correctly on his bookkeeping when he paid off Stormy Daniels. Oh, that's so bad. He needs to go to prison for 1,000 years. This is a bad guy. But Biden, it's like, okay, look at all the stuff he did. It's like, that's just some propaganda from the right. That's what that is. It's like, dude, it's just so cut and dry about what he did. I think it's crazy he just did what he just didn't think he was going to ever get caught for it. All of this, he left such a paper trail. It's outrageous. But, I mean, look at his administration and the federal government. Now they're all trying to protect him. It's interesting they're like putting themselves on the line, right, to go and protect Joe Biden. But like they were saying to the Department of Justice, though, it kind of makes sense. They're like, hey, if you go after Biden, it's going to be most likely career suicide. It's crazy how established the establishment really is. You know, they just protect each other no matter what. But they don't care about Trump. They won't protect him. They go after him every chance they get. So, yeah, it's very, very interesting. But yeah, I'm interested to see what happens. If there's any indictments and impeachment, they say they're going to do the impeachment on like September 26th or something, but that's just the inquiry. But the inquiry will lead to an impeachment. And from what I understand, the inquiry kind of puts it all out on the open anyways. They can subpoena, they can do a bunch of stuff, even though it's not technically an impeachment, they can put it out to the public. So I am very interested to see how this goes forward because they're just asking for more and more stuff. They're finding out more and more evidence. The last few weeks, it's wild how much evidence has come out about this. I just thought it was all going to be brushed under the rug. It's from the Hunter's laptop, and then they can get the archives. The National Archives have them. So then they go and ask about the vice president's emails, and what do you know? There's some interesting stuff, and they're trying to redact it, and they're holding up. They're taking forever to actually give it to them and all this stuff. So it should be interesting, but when it does come out, it does come out. It's kind of like the Department of Justice in a way is working for Republicans because they're taking so long to give this stuff to them instead of just bringing this out a year later, and some people are going to forget. They're just slow dripping all of it, and it's like it just keeps it in the news, 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 you know? So them trying to protect him, it seems just like they're hurting him. They should give him all the stuff now. I guess they don't want to give him all the stuff, but they're going to get pushed, and then it's going to slow drip in the news, and we're going to be talking about this until the election. I've covered a story on this almost every single day, if not every day, since I started doing the live streams, episode 12. So what, 16 days now? And then it's like, yeah, I've talked about, I think, a story on this every day, if not one. Sometimes it's like up to 3. About this Hunter Biden case and him being corrupt. It's wild. So, yeah, or him flubbing, you know. So he's just always in the news doing like stuff like that. Flubbing, or he's more evidence of his corruption. But I will leave that there. Let's move on to the next story. Yeah, this one's messed up. Proud Boys leader Enrique Tarrio gets 22 years in prison, even though he wasn't even at January 6th. Here's a clip.
Around the same time that we were learning that several Antifa far-left extremists were being indicted on RICO charges, we also got this news. Proud Boys leader Enrique Tarrio, ex-Proud Boys leader, sentenced to 22 years for January 6th riot roll. And that roll was... he was texting people, cheering them on. That's it.
This is freaky, man.
What?
Look, if you want to argue someone incited someone else to violence, like, what do you get for that? A couple years? If that, depending on the seriousness or nature of the crime.
Charles Manson, for instance, got life for inciting those guys to go F it up.
I mean, telling people to go murder somebody.
He didn't say, he just said, go F it up. And they took that to mean, okay. So they went and then they ended up killing these people. And they're like, nope, Manson incited it. Manson's going away.
I don't trust any of these charges. And Enrique Tarrio was not there. This is insane. Here's the story. They say he's been sentenced to 22 years in prison for his role on January 6th. He was one of 6 Proud Boy leaders to be charged for conspiring to stop the certification of the 2020 election. Tarrio's originally scheduled hearing was postponed, blah, blah, blah. They wanted 33 years. He got 22. They highlight a few things. And also they gave a whole bunch of other dudes 15 to 20 years. Biggs got 17. Tarrio was convicted for obstructing an official proceeding, conspiracy to prevent an officer from discharging their duties, obstruction of law enforcement during a civil disorder, and destruction of government property of the value over $1,000. Tarrio wasn't at the actual Capitol riot because he'd been arrested days earlier and he'd been told to leave the city, so he did. Apparently, he went to D.C. instead. Prosecutors say from a hotel outside of D.C., Tarrio directed his Proud Boys to attack the Capitol without him. Tarrio's attorneys have said he wasn't in contact with any members of the organization during the riot, and pointed to Nordian and Biggs as being the orchestrators of the riot. Further, they said, participating in a plan for the Proud Boys to protest on January 6th is not the same as directing others on the ground to storm the Capitol by any means necessary. And that's the issue. Apparently, that's it. He wasn't there.
Crazy.
There was no actual plan among any of the Proud Boys to do anything. They were unarmed. Many of them just did dumb things. And if you riot, you riot, especially at the Capitol during the electoral vote count, I think you get some serious charges. But like what? A year?
Yeah.
16 months maybe for knocking down barricades or smashing windows. I do think it is fair to say it is personally offensive to smash the windows of our Capitol building. You know, man, I look to American history and all this stuff, I reject and
But I didn't
despise
break
the corruption.
into any of the
but
art.
it is amazing to go to D.C. and see all the art and all the history and people smashing stuff and bashing windows and trying to break their way in. Really, really bad. I say criminal charges, and we'll be really harsh. Let's be really, really harsh. A rioter who does this should get 18 months.
Oh, they've already served that.
That's time
right?
served. Okay.
They've already been there.
Free to go.
It's
so
crazy.
you look at these guys who this guy burned down a police station in Minneapolis. He gets 4 years. You look at some of the what is it, the Molotov
That
cocktail
seems like it's fair.
Lawyers. What do they get, a year?
I think
22 years. They're effectively ending these dudes' lives.
Yeah, I mean, that's something Tarrio said today when he spoke. He said, he's 39. He said, please don't take my 40s from me. I would love to get married and have children. And you're
That's
going to,
awful.
he's not going to come out. He's like, what, 60? It's sad. It's sad to see someone have to be the scapegoat. I mean, that's what the U.S. government has done to him.
He's such a danger to
I'm gonna
society.
play the
It's so
time travel game again because I love this game. Let's go back to 2017. And I want you all to imagine going to one of your friends and telling them, in 2023, 6 Proud Boys will receive multi-decade sentences in prison for what the government describes as an act of domestic terror to overthrow the seat of government. And they would laugh harder than anyone's ever laughed. And they'd say, you're a nut job. The guys singing in the bar and marching around in polo shirts and doing, what do they sing, like Aladdin or something? Proud of your boy or whatever
That's
it
their
was?
slogan.
Seriously? You're out of your mind. Now look where we are.
Well, go ahead.
There was one guy who didn't get charged who was in the Capitol that day, and that was Sergei Dabidim. And he was actually a Ukrainian Azovite soldier who happened to find himself in the Capitol that day, and some photos were uncovered of him this week by Laura Loomer. And I find it crazy that you have Ukrainian spies that are in our Capitol infiltrating our seat of government, and they're not charged. They're allowed to come to the U.S. They're allowed to go protest in Orlando this week with all those guys. They're allowed to go back to Ukraine, but then we have, American citizens that weren't even there, and they're getting 20-year sentences.
So this is interesting. Laura Loomer posted this. She says, I've exclusively confirmed the FBI identified Ukrainian operatives and neo-Nazis were at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th and even questioned J6ers about Ukrainian spies during interviews with the FBI. The New York Times, this is Daily Dot, not the New York Times, said why Ukraine is now being accused of secretly orchestrating the Capitol riot. Can I just, I want to explain to you what they do. It's one thing for Laura Loomer to be like, hey, look at this dude who is a Ukrainian spy who appears to have been at the Capitol. Isn't that something crazy? What do they say? Ukraine is now being accused of orchestrating the Capitol riot, which is a massive leap from what Laura Loomer said.
Terrible.
This is how they try to debunk the narrative.
Yeah.
They create a conspiracy theory that no one brought up and then claim it's obviously insane, right? Yeah. Here's the tweet from Laura Loomer. She says, during the private interview with America Shaman, the FBI asked him how he knew a Ukrainian operative who took a photo with him the day of J6. Chansley didn't know the guy. And the FBI confirmed the Ukrainian Sergei, how do you pronounce his name? Dabinim?
Something like that.
There's 3 Y's.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Was a Ukrainian spy who was affiliated with the Nazi Azov battalion. This means the U.S. Capitol was penetrated by Ukrainian spies. Well, I don't know about spies, but at least a spy. And the U.S. government and FBI have still not arrested these people or made the public aware of the foreign penetration. It's an act of war by Ukraine against the United States, and the U.S. government has sent $200 billion to Ukraine in the last 2 years. The CIA is funding a color revolution in the United States via Ukrainian Nazis and American Nazis who are being recruited by the CIA, et cetera, et cetera. I do think a lot of this is a bit of a stretch. I think there's a fair question of, this does look like the same guy. Are we absolutely sure it is him?
They said that the FBI and the CIA asked him about this guy being a Ukrainian.
Right.
So, I mean, make of the, extrapolation what you will, but the fact that this guy was in our Capitol when all these other people are being charged with insurrection, what do you call that? That is at its core an act of war. If there was Chinese spies doing that, we know what we would call that. But because it's Ukraine and Ukraine is good, we have to just sit here and accept it?
Yeah, he just wandered in. He was a tourist. He couldn't have been there for any other reason. Nothing could be malicious.
Yeah, what about everyone else? You could say the same thing. This is the question about all of
January 6th, is like, we know the FBI had informants from Proud Boys or Oath Keepers or different groups. We know that they had people on the ground that day. We know that the mayor of D.C. and Nancy Pelosi were offered to have additional security and support of the Capitol, and that was turned down. So if the government intelligence communities knew this could potentially happen and it was such a big deal, why didn't they stop it? Why did they let it happen? For me, that's just evidence that it wasn't. I mean, one of my favorite lines from the opening statements for the Proud Boys trial was one of their lawyers, can't remember who at this moment, said, she was reading these texts where these guys are saying, so what time should we meet up in the morning? Where are you going to be? Like they didn't have a plan. And she just said, this group couldn't organize a group order at McDonald's. Like they did not plan an insurrection. They did not try to overthrow the U.S. government.
It doesn't matter,
ultimately, that's the narrative that our intelligence community really needed to be the case. That's why they didn't intervene when theoretically they should have if they knew it was going to happen.
I do think things are going to get a lot crazier in 2024. I think it'll be more heavy-handed on the side of the left. Seeing these far leftists be criminally charged with domestic terror and RICO, good, interesting. They're criminals who stormed a government facility and firebombed buildings, houses, shot at cops. Yeah, they need to be locked up. The rioters in front of January 6th who were smashing things and trying to break their way in, yeah, they should be criminally charged too. But that's 16 months for a violent riot and attacking cops, not 20 years.
Yeah.
The heavy-handedness is fairly obvious. The fact that Enrique Tarrio, according to the defense, they said he wasn't even in contact with them that day. They gave him 22 years. You know what I'll tell you is really interesting about this is that apparently there was a statement released by Tarrio gave a statement to the judge saying he regretted his actions. Did you see this?
Mm-hmm.
And that he was remorseful and he shouldn't have done it.
He said that he's not a political zealot and he didn't even know that you could change the results of an election.
And that he shouldn't have compared people to founding fathers or anything like that. I think, and then the judge apparently said he doesn't see any reason why Enrique would be remorseful over his actions or actually believe it.
What?
Look, man, it's going to get crazier. In 2024, it will get crazier. We're already seeing a whole bunch of videos of people having their homes raided by feds. Now, in 2023, 2.5 years later, there's how many people were there at the Capitol? We know that people who wandered in clueless, a few hours after the start of everything, were criminally charged and sentenced to a year or more. We know that the people who were storming the front and actually get engaged in violence have been criminally charged, but there are hundreds more, maybe even 1,000 more, who have not yet been charged, who were there, and we're starting to see these videos pop up. It seems that they waited until the start of the election cycle. Joe Biden just announced, I guess, what he's doing, a $25 million ad buy for the next campaign. Around the exact same time, the feds are starting to raid more people for January 6th. And don't you forget it. There were a lot of media personalities, social media figures who were cheering on what was going on outside of what Enrique Tarrio did. If they're claiming, I'll tell you this, you guys, if they're claiming Enrique Tarrio was organizing and inciting and encouraging it so that he gets 22 years, think about what's going to happen to the people who are on these alternative social media platforms with thousands of viewers and they were saying more. Do you think that the feds are going to ignore that? No, I think next they're going to come for media personalities. We know that James O'Keefe is being investigated in New York.
I wonder if they'd even have to be media personalities. Could you imagine if you were just a user on there doing that? And now, bam, you just said one thing and then we need to go further or something more. And now you're getting arrested. You weren't there. You didn't do anything. You're not a media personality. You got 2 likes on the post. This stuff's wild. Stuff is getting so wild.
Really related to January 6th, but I think a large component of what they're doing is going to be the people on social media encouraging it, calling for more and cheering people on. They're going to say we're part of a criminal conspiracy and they were inciting and they knew what they were doing, etc.
Yeah. I mean, this case is precedent setting. I mean, so Judge Kelly, who was overseeing this trial, said that he said this in all of the sentencings, but today he was specifically saying our country needs a peaceful transfer of power, and you broke our tradition of the peaceful transfer of power. And so he's basically saying these are the people that ruined democracy, which seems bizarre to me because it seems obvious that they did not actually have a plan to do anything. Yes, they were going to a rally. Yes, they were in D.C. Yes, things got out of hand. Either. They might need to face some charges. But the idea that it was a conspiracy seems weak anyways. And in fact, we've had peaceful transfers of power since, right? We had midterms elections. Nobody rioted at the Capitol when Congress was sworn in for the newest term. Like, it seems actually fine. You want it to be that there is more tension. That's my editorial take on it, that there is a desire for there to be contention between different political factions.
I say the same
the only
thing,
solution
they
is
do it on
to lock
purpose.
some of you up.
Right. I mean,
well, and they want people on the right to act crazy. I've said this in other videos. It's like the people on Twitter after Trump got indicted, they're like, "Oh, don't you want to get mad? Come on, go to the Capitol again," and stuff like that. It's like, Yeah, that's crazy. So that's what they want. They want all this crazy stuff to happen. So they're doing it on purpose. Lock them up. Hopefully someone on the right goes crazy. That's their plan. And then, someone goes crazy and then they can use it against them. That's what they want.
Like
so
I've been saying,
purposeful.
If your politicians can only campaign on vote for me and I will go after your enemies, then that just continues the escalation.
Which, by the way, is what I think Biden can only campaign on, because we're about to have student loan debt repayments. He couldn't get those wiped away. We're about to have, inflation is not great. We have tons of millennials who are saying, I would love to buy a home and I cannot. Biden is not a healthy person. He is polls consistently show people think he is too old to run again. He is the oldest sitting president in our nation's history. I think he is actually very weak going into this campaign, and that's why magically this timing all lines up where Trump's indictment, the Proud Boy results, all of this is happening at once.
I got my bribe from the Biden administration over the weekend. I got a letter that says they forgave $7,000 of student loan debt. I didn't ask. I didn't sign up for it. I didn't want it, and they did it anyway because it had been 21 years. The debt's older than 20 years, so they just wiped it off. It's just such a bribe. It's just disgusting.
Well, I thought there was programs like that have existed for a while, for like a decade at least. There's been programs to help people who are lower income or whatever the circumstances may be to help with student loans. So that's like, I know that's been a big point of contention with people who are now finding fault with Biden's plan, because they're like, there's programs to help us. They already exist. We're already doing handouts.
He just wants the feather in his cap. He wants to say, I'm the president that did this.
Yeah. He wants the bribe.
Thanks for watching this clip from the
Very interesting stuff. Yeah, it's getting scary out there. Yeah, definitely is. This is just going crazy. They're getting so much time in jail for like such a small crime. It's like, yeah, if you want to give them a few years. Some of these I think might even be a little much, and Enrique Tarrio wouldn't even do. But 22 years, it's like he literally didn't even do anything. But if they were like, if they said we're giving them 3 years, I'd be like, oh, that's really messed up. He didn't even do anything. But they're giving him over 7 times that. Why would you feel remorseful about it? That is a good question. Why would he? He didn't do anything. But yeah, his lawyer probably told him to say that. And it's just like, that's insane, though. Yeah, he probably just doesn't want to be a part of politics or anything anymore. Enrique Tarrio, he's probably like, I'm out. I'm just out. Not doing anything anymore. But the judge is still like 22 years. It's just like they're just trying to set an example. It's not about what Enrique did or didn't do. It's about them setting an example. Hey, you even get any political power, you get any influence on the right, we're going to come after you. Doing what I do, that's pretty scary, really. I'm not going to stop doing it, though, because I'm like, I didn't do anything wrong. I'm just commenting. And I wouldn't even say I'm necessarily on the right. I lean right. Who doesn't lean right nowadays, right? So it's like, yeah, but it's crazy. But that's what they say. You become a really political icon of the right. Like the Proud Boys, we're going to lock you up even if you didn't do anything. Oath Keepers, we're going to lock you up even if you didn't even do anything. Stay away from all these events. I'll sit here and report. I let other people report, and I'll chill here and report from home. Because I'm a commentator. Let people on the ground that are like apolitical, mostly personality-wise, on social. They can go get the footage and everything like that. If you're political and you lean to the right, yeah, be careful, because they're just gonna the guy from the Oath Keepers, he was on the Capitol grounds, but he didn't do anything. He just stayed. He was like on the very outside of the Capitol grounds. He didn't go into the Capitol or anything. 18 years. It's like, it's crazy. They don't want you to demonstrate, period. They don't want it. They're like, people on the left, they can go and do these, all this stuff where they've been going into state capitals to fight laws recently. I don't even think they get charged. I think the cops just, maybe they arrest them and then let them go, or just get them off the grounds. But what do they get? They're not getting 22 years for obstructing. I guess they would argue, oh, it's different. It's an election, not a law. But it's like, well, how are you going to get 22 years and then they get nothing? It's wild. And 22 years for the merits of what they did going into the Capitol. Luckily, no one destroyed art or anything, like I was saying, because that easily could have happened. But yeah, it's just, all this stuff is really crazy. And charge people for doing that stuff. But 22 years, people do way, way, way more heinous crimes than this, and they don't even get that much. It's wild. But with that, I am going to leave it there, and we will move on to the next story. AOC gets called out for offensive meeting with leftist leaders in Latin America. Here's a clip.
A Wall Street Journal op-ed calling it AOC's Socialist Sympathy Tour, meeting with leftist leaders in Latin America during a 3-day trip to Brazil, Colombia, and Chile with 10 other congressional Democrats and staffers. She said, quote, I believe that we owe Chile, and not just Chile, but many aspects of that region, an apology. I don't think that apology indicates weakness. I think it indicates a desire to meet our hemispheric partners with respect. Here to react, Daniel DiMartino, founder of the Dissident Project and Manhattan Institute fellow. He's also a Venezuelan immigrant. Daniel, it's great to have you here. So I'm hearing about this sympathy tour. She wants America to apologize for meddling in Latin America. We can quibble about that. But at this moment, China is meddling in Latin America, and she's supporting the socialists who are partnering with China.
Well, I think
in our hemisphere.
Look, the only medalists in Latin America right now are not America. It's really China, it's really Russia, it's really Cuba. And the governments that she's supporting are governments that are actually destroying their nations and pushing people to escape. I mean, there's a reason people escape to America and not escape to other countries. And I think it's just offensive. Look, I came from Venezuela, and I did it because I love America. Venezuela was destroyed by socialism. And now she's supporting the same governments that are friends with Maduro, that are friends with Castro. And I think it's dangerous to have somebody in the American Congress who is really, I think, a socialist asset.
Yeah, 100%. Now, let's talk a little bit about meddling.
Interesting.
Because the Biden administration has done some very dangerous, I think, against our national interest meddling in Latin America. And I would say that is in the election in Brazil. So Bolsonaro was running against the current president of Brazil, and Lula, and Bolsonaro was pro-America. And our government, along with big tech, meddled in that election. Bolsonaro lost. There were massive protests on the streets. What do you make of that?
Well, Lula, the president that beat Bolsonaro in this election, is a convicted robber.
Yes.
I mean, he was convicted then because of a technicality. He was released, and he's one of the biggest robbers in Latin American history. And now he's president because of the support also of Biden.
All these corrupt
the president of Colombia, who is an ex-guerrilla member. So he was part of an armed guerrilla, a murderer, and he's the president of Colombia now. The president of Chile thinks that, you know, free enterprise destroyed Chile. I wish that AOC, if she had gotten something away from this trip in Chile, is that Chile today is 3 times as rich as it was back in 1973 when it was a socialist country. They went from being the poorest to being the richest Latin American country. They have school choice. They have fully privatized retirement accounts. They have very low taxes, constitutionally restrained budget deficits. Yes, we do have a lot to learn from Chile, and that is the free markets work.
If our Congress delegations are going to take their breaks and go into Latin America, what should be their #1 mission, given where we are geopolitically right now in America?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that, there are many Latin American countries that are key for us. Chile is the #1 producer of copper, which is a key mineral for everything, and many other rare metals. Argentina is a country that right now we should be looking at, right, because of the new election that's going to happen in October.
Yes.
And then we really need to be building better ties with all of them, right? Because 20 years ago, America was the #1 trade partner of all of Latin America. Today, that country is China.
That's right.
And that's because we stopped paying attention. The problem is not that is that we meddle in Latin America. The problem is that we forgot about Latin America.
Yeah, or we're too busy selling social agendas that they don't want. Our State Department's promoting abortion and LGBTQ and all that stuff, when we should be building commerce ties with them and making sure that the Chinese aren't buying up ports and, as you said, mines, copper mines, rare earth minerals, et cetera. Danielle, it's really good to hear. We don't talk enough about what's going on in Latin America, but it is our hemisphere, and it should matter to Americans. And I appreciate you coming in so early to remind us of that.
Yeah, it's really interesting because, I understand Congress people wanting to go meet with leaders, even if they're not, politically on our side necessarily. We could still work together and everything. But to say we owe them an apology when they're socialists and they do so much bad stuff there, I don't know about that part of it. But yeah, I don't really see anything that wrong with her meeting with them per se. It's just how she framed it. She's like, these are great countries. I think she just thinks obviously it's AOC, right? Let's be more like them. It's like, I don't know about that. How about you go meet with them and we can do a trade deal, work out some stuff where they can be a better country, right? But again, to be like, oh, we owe them an apology. Classic AOC, just going and just doing her nonsense, trying to get more press, push to the far left, even though her city, Eric Adams is saying, we're going to talk about this in a little bit. He's talking about where it's overran by immigrants and he doesn't see any end in sight for it. All of New Yorkers, like every New Yorker's mad. People in Chicago are mad about all the immigration. Is she trying to fix any of that? Is she trying to do anything about that? No, she's doing another publicity stunt. Yeah, that's what she does. But with that, let's move on to the next story. This one's a doozy. Judge orders Texas to remove border buoys. Here's a clip.
A federal judge in Texas has ordered the state to remove its floating border barriers from the Rio Grande. The order also prohibits Texas from setting up similar buoys, which were designed to keep away migrants. The decision came after the Biden administration sued in July. CBS News immigration reporter Camila Montoya Galvez joins us now. So, Camila, what was the Biden administration arguing in its suit?
Hi, Elaine. Good evening. This is a significant legal victory for the Biden administration and a setback for Governor Greg Abbott, a Republican in Texas.
No, for us, everyone in Texas, it's a setback.
These river barriers near Eagle Pass to repel migrant crossings, but the Biden administration quickly sued, arguing that it impeded Border Patrol agents from patrolling the border, that these barriers endangered the safety of migrants because it forced them to swim through deeper parts of the Rio Grande.
It forced them. Listen to how they CBS News, how they frame it. It forced them to swim through deeper waters, or just don't go into the water and try to enter the United States illegally. I mean, they're forced. No, I mean, it incentivizes them to do that, but it definitely doesn't force them. Like, bro, come on. What? Watch how they frame this stuff.
And that it hurt U.S.-Mexico relations. When the barriers were set up, Elaine, they were actually initially assembled, 80% of them at least, on Mexican territory. And the Mexican government raised serious objections about these barriers, in their words, violating the country's sovereignty. Now this federal...
My goodness, violating the country's sovereignty. Don't you think you're kind of doing that, letting millions of people pour into the country illegally? Hurting their ability, the Border Patrol's ability to protect them. They don't even, half these people don't even get captured. Border Patrol probably likes these. And then the judge is just complaining about them. Like, no. It's bad. 80% was, he says, originally. So probably they probably moved them all back towards the American side. It's probably a mistake by one contractor. And wouldn't Mexico want this? No, of course they don't. Why would they? They want people flooding into America. They can protect their borders and not let people in there, but they don't. And they don't care to, because people don't want to go to Mexico. They want to come to America. But then if they stay in Mexico, Mexico has to deal with them. And I think this is really interesting because all these cities are overran and all their money is getting spent on immigrants. It's insane. And now they're just going to get more of them. They're not going to stay in Texas. Texas is going to send them out of Texas, and then these guys are going to have to take care of them. And we as Texans, we're actually trying to protect the border as a whole. We're trying to protect these big cities like New York and Chicago from getting these people in. But if they get in, we are not going to protect them. You guys are the ones who want to be sanctuary cities, so you're going to have to deal with it. But then even still, with having said all that, we're still trying to help and be set up the border buoys. Because you guys don't need any more of that. And then the judge is like, nope. It's just hurting the left even more. It's like these people are operatives for the right. I don't literally think that, but that's what's happening when this judge does this. If the right got what they wanted and had the wall and the immigration issue went away, the left would fare better in the 2024 election. But they're not doing that. Let's see what else they have to say.
Judge has agreed with the Biden administration's arguments and said that Texas has 10 days until September 15th to move these barriers away from the middle of the Rio Grande. And also, this ruling is prohibiting the state from setting up similar structures in the future. Texas has filed a notice to appeal this ruling, but for now, Elaine, the state has to comply with it and start the process of repositioning, at the very least, these barriers.
Just move them by the shore.
This is a preliminary injunction, and what happens now?
Make them bigger. Put them by the shore.
Steps. We know you'll continue to monitor that situation. Camilo Montoya Galvez, thanks very much, Camilo.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, I guess we'll see what happens. I bet you the border buoy is protecting the border to some extent, but what are they? They could just move them to the shore, right? They're not. I don't know. It's tricky how it was worded, right? Dismantle or remove, but if you move them to the shore on Texas land, it's like, what is a judge going to say about that, right? But I think they want them in the middle, so it's like easier or harder for them to like climb over because it's deeper. I don't really know. But yeah, move them over, leave it there. And they're saying it's like impeding a navigable waterway. It's like, the federal government should have a wall built on the other side. They shouldn't be needed. But what are you going to do? You gotta do something. And having Texas overran by immigrants and then having half of them getting shipped up to these cities that Texans also have to pay for, it's ridiculous. This is what the federal tax, the income tax, and all the federal tax are supposed to go to, right? It's supposed to go to protecting the border, but they're not doing it. So Texans have to spend the money that we put in the coffers through our state taxes, and then we have to pay basically twice. It's like the federal income tax supposed to be going to that. Nope. Our state taxes have to go to it now. Outrageous. And then if the city has to deal with it, our property taxes are going to it now too. So all the taxes are going to immigration when it's that you could just build the wall that the income tax easily paid for. Trump already had it funded. Then now they're selling off materials for pennies on the dollar. This is outrageous. Hopefully they appeal or they just can reposition it so they can keep it up there because this is wild. I want them to build more of it. But I will leave that there. Let's move on to the next story. New hurricane forms in the Atlantic. This is looking crazy. Here's a clip.
New hurricane has formed in the Atlantic. Lee is forecast to rapidly intensify and could be a major Cat 3 or higher as early as tonight. Chief meteorologist Ginger Z.
I've heard from other sources that it's on track to hit a Category 5. That's insane.
Lee for us. So, Ginger, where's Lee headed now, and how could it impact the U.S.?
Alexis, the confidence is high that Lee, as a hurricane, will, of course, intensify and stay just north of the northern Leeward Islands. So the interest there is big time, big surf. And of course, some of the outer bands could even whip with tropical storm force winds. But through the weekend, it starts to slow down a bit. And there's a reason behind that. We'll show you all the mapping here. The kind of cone stays narrow at first because that's where confidence is high and then widens considerably as it gets north of Puerto Rico. And we'll tell you why. But first is that the temperatures in the ocean there in the Atlantic where it has formed are 3 to 4 degrees above normal. It is really warm. That is super jet fuel for this thing, and it will stay that through the weekend. Then it enters some cooler waters. Franklin and Idalia had kind of upwelled the ocean a bit and cooled it off, which will, take it down a notch, but still plenty of fuel for the sustenance that Lee needs.
That's crazy how warm it was before. It's still 4 degrees warmer than usual, and the other hurricanes cooled it down. That is wild. El Nino is nuts.
The spaghetti plots tell you that widening of them is because of confidence over time. So that's Tuesday, Wednesday, as it kind of approaches just west of Bermuda and sandwiched between the East Coast and Bermuda because of that driving high. The high goes clockwise. It steers. And then that trough will also steer. So it really depends on how strong and that kind of tug and pull of each of those as to how far north it gets before impacting with land. Right now, some of the modeling trying to do like the state line of Maine or the border there into Canada. So
that's
Nova Scotia,
fun.
New Brunswick.
It's always so hot. I live in Austin, right in the center of all that.
Because we have seen 100 degrees, the hottest September temperature on record for Washington, Dulles, Baltimore, their first September 100 since 1983, so 40 years. And we're going to do more daily records today. Until then, we cool it down in the Northeast. It will still be muggy through the weekend, but not in the 90s. Washington, D.C. gets down to 88. But look what happens. That ridge builds back. Dallas going to see days of records. Phoenix, after such an epic summer, could see more 110 pluses this weekend, which will make them break their all-time number of 110 pluses in a year. Alexis.
All right. Chief Meteorologist Ginger Z tracking her.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, and El Nino's crazy. People have been predicting this. You know, it's going to be warmer the next few years. People are predicting that it's even going to be worse next year. So, you know, hold on to your seats, I guess, if you're in any of these crazy areas like I am. You know, stay safe. I live in Austin. It's been 100, at least 100 for weeks, months, a while. I don't even check the temperature anymore. It's just, okay, you go outside, it's hot, and the AC is going to be on all day. You know, that's just how it is. And these hurricanes, they're just getting wild. I was reading reports, articles earlier saying that it's pretty much this one, Lee, is going to hit Category 5 for sure. They don't even know if it's going to hit land yet. And the longer it takes to hit land, from what I've seen in my, like, just looking at the stuff in the past, it's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I don't think they fizzle out until they hit land, do they? No matter what. Do they have a Category 6, I wonder? This stuff is terrifying. But I will leave it there. Let's move on to the next story. Karine Jean-Pierre roasted for explanation of Biden's awkward exit. Here's a clip.
President Biden catching a lot of attention for abruptly walking off the stage at a Medal of Honor ceremony this week. This as Vietnam War helicopter pilot, retired U.S. Army Captain Larry L. Taylor was still wiping tears from his face.
Biden
But the White House is calling it a COVID safety measure.
For a brief time afterwards, he also didn't have his mask on, as you just laid out, and he left as planned, as it was planned. He left when there was a pause in the program in order to minimize his close contact with attendees who are about to participate in a reception.
Jimmy Fallon, host of Fox Across America on Fox News Radio, Fox Station. Jimmy, it was all part of the plan.
Oh,
this wasn't wandering old Joe at all.
No, let's be clear. The most shocking part of that is that he went the right way. Okay? He could have walked back and forth for 5 minutes. I mean, let's be real here. They are so relieved he didn't put that medal on himself. You know how many times they had to tell him that backstage? But, like, shame on them. They should just own it for what it was. Because, number one, if he was worried about exposing people, he wouldn't have exposed people. Okay, they showed up, they took off the mask. They had already been exposed. Never mind,
what the hell?
Wearing a mask anyway. It's all just theater at that point. But the whole scam of this, okay, is they keep asking us again and again to lean in as if it's normal to be having these conversations about a president. As if, oh no, presidents left all the time. I remember the time JFK said, ask not what you can do for your, I gotta go. You know, this isn't normal. This isn't normal.
Well, I mean, President Biden, he joked about not wearing a mask. But before we play the soundbite, I think the White House, I don't think they want to talk about him having to wear a mask, if you may be quite honest. But let's listen to this and talk about it.
We explained to the press, I've been tested again today. I'm clear across the board. But they keep telling me because this has to be 10 days or something, I got to keep wearing it. But don't tell them I didn't have it on when I walked in.
See?
You buying it?
Nah, the whole thing's a scam. I mean, he's probably only wearing the mask because they don't want him sniffing people. It's there as like a deterrent. But really quick, Todd, this is for you. Billy Madison.
This guy's hilarious.
Okay, in the movie Billy Madison, Adam Sandler feels bad for the little kid who pees his pants, so he tries to make it look like a normal thing. He goes, oh, you pee your pants? I pee my pants all the time. That's what we're doing for a president now. Oh, you wander out in the middle of a ceremony? No, that's normal. We wander out in the middle of a ceremony all the time. You can pretend it's normal here, but the people watching on the other side of the world, like our enemies, they know it's not normal. Okay, they're not sitting here going, no, they planned that. Mid-applause while the guy's crying. That's when you walk out. Everybody knows.
But Jimmy, the alternative is one Vice President Kamala Harris, who we needed to explain how the succession plans take over when, Biden leaves or something. Watch.
Joe Biden's going to be fine. But let us also understand that every vice president understands that when they take the oath, that they must be very clear about the responsibility they may have to take over the job of being president. I am no different.
She then went on to sing, it's just a bill, just a regular bill. But seriously, though, Gavin Newsom walked around the White House last July like he owned the place. Yeah. That comment from Kamala, you didn't see the Kamala cackle. Yeah. Is this her measuring the curtains moment?
100% that's there in her head. You can't forget how opportunistic she is, okay? As a opponent on the campaign trail, she said he was racist for his support of segregated busing. She said she believed a sexual assault accuser. Then he said, how'd you like to be VP VP. She's like, I'm here. I'm outside the building. Where do I go? Okay. The minute she saw that opportunity, she stepped in. So there's no doubt, okay, that she kind of has a sense for the vibe in Washington in that his presidency could be headed off to that big ice cream shop in the sky. So could Kamala step in? Yes. And stepping in is when you step and you go in and you're now inside a new role because you've stepped into it, to put it in Kamala's speech.
Yeah, I mean, 77% of Americans and 69% of Democrats think that Biden is too old. It makes you wonder why in the world we are even entertaining the idea that he is going to run for re-election. It baffles me.
It shouldn't be going on. I mean, even as a comedy writer, it's exhausting.
Speaking of entertaining and speaking of comedy,
come on.
You can see Jimmy Fallon live. Tickets on sale now for your Fox.
Yeah, that guy's hilarious. But yeah, they just make up all this stuff. His accent, COVID. Oh, it's because it's COVID. Yeah, right. It's not because of COVID. They don't care. The idiot just walked off. There might have been a plan in the pause, but that's when he chooses. He's like, okay, run. Like this guy was saying, that Jimmy guy. He was like, okay, yeah, at least he didn't walk around and put the medal on him. So I got a new pedal. I mean a medal. I mean, yeah, I got a medal, or it's a pedal for my car. Yeah, I put it on myself. It's like, no, dude, that's supposed to go to him. Oh, yeah, okay. Why are you crying, man? What's wrong? Did you almost have a house fire and lose your wife? Biden's horrible, and it's crazy. He wants to be president again. It's nuts. And they're just going to give him the nomination, most likely. They're just like, okay, here it is, because they don't want division in the party and everything. People say it's going to be Gavin Newsom. It's not going to be Gavin Newsom. Joe Biden's going to go, and he's not going to step down. People are like, well, when he gets that call, if he needs to step down, that's what they're waiting for. They've made that call, and then they're like, damn it, why is he just not listening? He can't even listen to when to leave the ceremony or do anything. You think he can listen to him on that? It's kind of funny how much it's backfiring, them getting Biden in there, really, because if you think of it that way, it's like it's just all backfiring on them because he won't listen. This is hilarious, really. But yeah, it's going to keep continuing to the election. I'm waiting for him just to say something crazy about how he had a 100 business deal again, like the CFR meeting, Well, look at it. They fired him. I told him he was going to get the $1 billion. I mean, he said that when he's like coherent to show off. One day he's just going to be so confused and be like, step back in time or something. And he's going to probably start saying some crazy stuff. I'm just waiting for it. But with that, let's move on to the next story. Democrats file new lawsuit to remove Trump from the 2024 ballot in Colorado. Here's a clip.
Let's jump into this first story. They're coming for Trump. DC watchdog group brings suit on behalf of Colorado voters to remove Trump from 2024 ballot using the 14th Amendment. That's the gist of the story. Here we go again. I don't know if it's the Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington crew claims that Trump has disqualified himself for violating Section 3 of the 14th Amendment.
It's always the same.
They were trial ballooning this when they went after a bunch of politicians over January 6th. One guy, Coy Griffin out of New Mexico, I think it was, actually got removed over it.
That's wild.
I don't know if they succeed. But I do know they're not going to stop trying to get him removed, and they need to remove him from only one state, and it doesn't even need to be, all it has to be is, I don't know how many states are not winner take all. There's a feel like Nebraska's kind of weird, but if they remove him from any one state, particularly a swing state, that's it. He's going to have a very hard time winning, especially he needs to win 3. He doesn't need that many votes. It was 42,000 votes he lost by in 2020, but this is their strategy. They can't win. Right now,
the Supreme Court's not going to allow this
go
to
after
happen.
All of these January 6ers, many of whom were nonviolent. They're trying to generate as much anti-Trump sentiment. We've got news stories about potential mask mandates coming back. They are pulling out all the stops, and it is not even 2024. Charlie Kirk tweeting earlier that new criminal charges may be about to drop from Jack Smith pertaining to Donald Trump and his actions pertaining to voter machines. You've got a warning already from Jack Smith that Trump's statements are tampering with the jury pool, and it's 2023. We got
your statements are tampering with the jury
and
pool.
The shenanigans have only just begun.
I got to say, though, I just don't, I'm kind of resigned to accept that Trump's not going to be president, and it doesn't matter anyway, because the president ain't going to fix this. It's going to be the private sector. The president can stand by and say no, but cannot make anything happen. The public is going to make
the president has quite a bit of power. I don't disagree with him, but
it's not going to happen from the top. But the top will be involved. But I don't think placing faith in the next guy to win the race is like the way that we're going to save our nation, and it never really was.
I partially agree with what you're saying. It is a cultural shift that needs to happen, and that is happening with the parallel economy that's being built, with Public Square, as successful as they've been with, as we've already mentioned, Bud Light, Target, we mention them every single day. And now Cousin T's Pancake Mix challenging these woke corporations. The parallel economy is the cultural shift we need to win. But in the short term, the long-term thing is going to be winning the culture war. The short-term thing is, we're probably going to need to criminally charge criminals and have some accountability. The idea that, I'll put it this way, Trump winning is a key is a strategic position in winning this ongoing cultural cold civil war, whatever you want to call it.
It would be great for a lot of people, but the metaphor I'm feeling is like you're going to a horse race and Trump's your horse, for instance, and you're like, that guy, he's going to win. I got everything. We need this horse to win, but like they own the arena where the horse is running. They set all the rules in real time. They can have new runners come onto the race at any moment. They can actually tell your horse to stop running and go sit down during the race. So how do you expect that horse to win?
Well, first of all, I want to get something out the way. January 6th, I was in Washington, D.C. I was there at the rally. Now, I did not go to the Capitol, so FBI don't come knocking on my damn door. I did not go to the Capitol, but I was there, and Trump had nothing to do with people busting out windows or whatever was going on at that Capitol. He did not tell people to riot. Trump is all about peace. He's all about peace, and I was there. So them going after him for January 6th is just straight up bogus. So I just want to get that out the way agree. Because I was there.
We all know that.
Now, you are right. So we do need a really listen. Will things change? Probably not. But we still need Trump in office. We need him in office. And yes, the Democrats and the damn deep state is running this and running that. But we can't just sit back and say, well, if Trump wins, it doesn't really matter. Like, that's not the attitude to have.
Well, what are you hoping? What are you hoping for with a Trump victory? Like, if Trump wins, what do you see that?
Well, first of all, I want Trump to continue to do what he was doing. He was making this country great again. He had a lot of stuff in store for America, but also I want Trump, which a lot of people don't want him to do. Oh, Trump, you shouldn't go after them. You shouldn't.
He has
to.
The
whole retribution thing is not good. Trump should go after these criminals too. He should go after these people who are causing all of this chaos in America. That's what he needs to do. And if he doesn't win, who's going to go after them?
Vivek.
I agree.
We are in the I love the politicians are just saying stuff that they know they can't deliver on part of the election cycle where, and it is, as much as I do like Vivek, he's talking about, he's like, we need to ban social media until they turn 18. I'm like, that's unenforceable. You're not going to be able to do that. And that's the name of the game right now, is telling you that they're going to deliver on all of these promises that we know deep down. Maybe you get like what? They make 10 campaign promises. You get 1 for 10?
Yeah,
2 for 10?
But in this circumstance, let's say Trump says he's going to do all this. He's going to fire people. He's going to charge these people. He was talking to Glenn Beck. Glenn Beck said, do you go after these people? And he's like, well, you have no choice based on what they've been doing. It's really, really simple. If Donald Trump gets elected and does not do it, then he will go to prison for the rest of his life. His supporters will go to prison.
Yeah,
they'll start
everyone on the right is gonna go to prison if he doesn't do it. Look what they're doing. They're just going after everyone, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. And this is clear election tampering. Oh, what's his name? I just was reading one of Trump's aides. I'm blanking on his name all of a sudden. But one of Trump's aides just got sentenced to jail, because he didn't return Congress a congressional subpoena. Now he's going to jail. But now Merrick Garland and the DOJ, they're doing the exact same thing for Biden. So it's kind of interesting because in a way, it's like setting a precedent. You know what I mean? So now it's like, Peter Navarro, that's his name. Yeah. I don't remember, a few years or something. It's insanity. And then the same thing happened to Steve Bannon, because they said he was in contempt because he didn't show up for the subpoena. And they said it was executive privilege, which it probably was, but the judge doesn't care. The jury doesn't care. So they're like, no, you're going to prison for a few years. But what's interesting is if you think about it, the left is setting a precedent. And if Trump does win and goes after these guys, the precedent was already set by the left. So I don't know. It should be interesting going forward.
And lawyers, which they're already doing. So it really is just pick your poison.
Yeah, Trump just kind of has to win.
It goes one way or the other. There's no middle and there's no off-ramp.
Yeah.
Either if Trump gets elected and he goes after these people, starts arresting people, you're going to see arrests. He doesn't, then they continue what they're already doing in arresting Trump supporters, his lawyers, and they don't stop there. I mean, trying to take Trump's name off the ballot is one of the most extreme things we have ever seen in this country. The first time I believe it's ever been attempted to be used, and they're on attempt number 4.
Right. Extreme. They silenced the president.
Yeah. It's like how the indictments weren't supposed to happen. I'm sorry. There's never been an indictment before of an American president. But then look, now it's the first time in history, and there's 4 of them now. It's like they're so desperate. It is outrageous. And like I've said before, the charges they're trying to get him on are outrageous.
United States of America. That's even worse. When they took him off of Twitter, Facebook, Instagram,
I don't know if it's worse.
They silenced a sitting president.
But yeah, that's insanity.
A sitting president. So all the stuff that they're doing now, I am not surprised. But we have to play dirty. We have to play the same games that the Democrats are playing.
Not dirty.
I'm sick of these weak-ass Republicans sitting back talking about, well, we are above that. Bullshit.
Why are they above the law?
Investigate a bunch of stuff and have nothing come out of any of it.
Bull crap. Above my ass. We need to. We have to play dirty. Where's Kevin McCarthy at? What is Kevin McCarthy doing?
I don't even think that's dirty.
If
this is what they're doing.
If people were going after Joe Biden and trying to arrest him and Nancy Pelosi, if she was still the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi would be knocking doors down right now.
Yeah.
She would not be allowing Republicans to go after Joe Biden. She would be punching back. Why are we not doing the same?
They're way more ruthless, and with access to the media, they come out looking better than Republicans every single time.
But I don't think that really matters at this point. I think more so the issue is everybody knows that it's a facade, but everyone's just kind of going along with it.
Yeah.
It's starting to break, though. Like I was mentioning, I mentioned these 4 examples, 2 positive, 2 negative, right? Sound of Freedom and Richmond, North of Richmond are huge net positives and cultural victories. And then you have Bud Light and Target as 2 examples of basically our side of things, which is it's not left or right. It's constitutional republic, which they call right or whatever. But it could be, you could have more liberal opinions. We're winning in terms of.
Yeah. And also, like I was saying, like we're setting the precedent by doing setting the precedent. We're just winning by default. Even if Kevin McCarthy isn't going after them, him doing that might be good at the moment, because do you think that any of these leftists are actually going to get indicted or convicted or anything? People on the right will. We were just talking about them. So they will, but if people on the left aren't, but then they set the precedent in a few years, man, they could be like, the precedent set. Look there's been these four convictions, and then people on the left, it might actually happen. But I don't know. Who wants these precedents set, though? That's kind of the scary thing. You kind of want to go back the other way. It would be better, really, if the right was fighting it, because we don't want these precedents set, but it just seems like it's backfiring.
Freedom, liberty, challenging the woke cult and their narrative control, they're failing. Look at the ADL and the SPLC and the narrative that's come out as of recently. Elon Musk challenges the ADL. Now ban ADL starts trending on Twitter, X. And then what is it? The executive director guy or whatever says that they're a bunch of white supremacists. It doesn't work anymore, dude. You're just spitting into the wind at this point. Nobody cares what you have to say. It doesn't work. We're winning that. So let them try. Their institutional control is failing. This is good news. That's why I'm like, you got to be careful, because these videos of J6ers getting arrested, I think, is intending to provoke a response. And all you got to do right now is really simple. You got to buy pancakes, right?
Yeah.
But I'm not even kidding, right? Supporting the parallel economy, make money for yourself, support companies that believe in your values, get the word out to vote, and vote in large numbers. This is why they're trying to pull Trump's name from the ballot, because they can't win in any standard circumstance.
And then, they know
it. About this, when a lot of his posts and the stuff he does with his journalism is he talks a lot about how people push back on the cultural issues online. He's like, yeah, but are you going out to vote?
Right.
Are you going out? Are you
Definitely
actually doing
vote.
something? There's an old there's a Sage Francis song from like 2001. He was super anti-war, and he's basically talking about how it's like they complain about the global war but can't overthrow the local joker that they voted for. Everyone wants to complain. Nobody wants to actually go to the ballot box and do something about it.
Yeah, and that bums me
But
out.
It's really interesting because I'm a libertarian, so I used to be like, if no one votes, no one can get elected, right? No one's gonna win, and then the government ceases to exist. But that's not really true. If libertarians don't vote, people that want government, they're gonna go vote because they want free stuff. And if we don't counter that, we're just destroyed. There's nothing. Then we're just done. It's like I used to be more for not having borders because I'm like in a free society with no government. You could come and go as you please. But then if we do have government, though, we're not there yet. People will just come across the border, vote for what they want, and then we'll never get what we want, which is a completely free society. It's never going to happen if you don't go and vote and then use the laws that you have now because, again, they'll take advantage of them. So if you're just letting them take advantage of it, yeah, it's just never going to work out. The people that are shady and will take advantage of it, they'll win and they'll stomp on us. We wouldn't do that, right? We want a free society, but they will. They don't care. They don't want it. They want socialism. So they're going to use the system that we have now to get that. So we have to do the same thing and counteract it. We have to vote against that type of stuff.
My experience with most people in my life. When I was younger, I wanted to open, I knew these guys had a little miniature warehouse with a skate ramp in it. And they were like, we all pitch in $100 and it covers the rent. And we can't afford it on our own, but together. And I was like, dude, we should do this. I go to my friends and everyone said the same thing. You build it and then I'll think about it. And I was like, dude, unless we stand up together right now and definitively state we will do this thing, it will never happen. But that was the attitude of everyone I knew.
Yeah.
And it's similar. I just use it as an example of how we see most things for a long time. You'd say, you've got to get out, go knock on doors. Someone else will do it. Let me know when you do it. If I see success, I'll consider it. Nah, we ain't doing that no more. Scott Pressler is out there knocking on doors and doing the hard work. We here at Timcast IRL,
shout out to
maybe we
Scott
could do more.
Pressler.
You can make that argument. But I do a morning show and a night show, 16 hours every day, talking about trying to build influence in telling people to be the change you want to see in the world. For everyone else, it's simple. Spend time sending out mailers, volunteer, do whatever you have to do, register people to vote, and then we win.
Well, what do you say
Amen.
when people say, well, our vote's not gonna count? You got people saying that.
Trump lost by 42,000 votes. So when they come out and they're like, there's no way Joe Biden got 81 million votes. I'm like, dude, yeah, he got 81 million votes because New York and Los Angeles voted in huge numbers because they were locked in their houses.
Yeah.
But there were 3 key swing states where between them, Donald Trump only needed 42,000 votes. That's it. They don't have the same lockdowns anymore. People are pissed off at Joe Biden. His approval rating's in the gutter. If
People
Trump
are pissed at the
supporters
left
quadruple
because
their
of
efforts, not
immigration.
even. If Trump supporters just stick to their efforts, Joe Biden's vote count is going to go down.
Exactly.
You double your efforts, Trump's going to win by a healthy amount.
Do you think that the reason why we're starting to see all the articles come out again about mask mandates is that they're looking to reinstate any type of lockdowns before the election?
Yes, they're looking to steal the election.
And they missed that control too. Those people in the media, I'm sure, they probably missed that control. Where they're going, mask up. A few Karens even here in Austin, like saying that type of, oh, you got to mask up. It's like, oh, leave me alone. I'm not doing what you want me to do. Leave me alone. So yeah, these people, they probably missed the control too. They're like, oh, we just want to control people again. It was awesome. These people are not normal people.
Yeah, yes.
Removing Trump from the ballot is cheating.
They're going to use the mail-in ballots to cheat, but see,
they're going to try.
It's not going to work this time because
I don't think so.
A lot of Americans are not going to stay in their homes. They're not going to put on those masks. And I'm talking about people on both sides are not going to do that. So they need to. So that's why they want to put President Trump in prison. That's why they want to lock him up because they can't use COVID to win this time. It's not going to work.
They're already
nobody's falling for that. Yeah.
They're already doing it with when it was in 2019, it was Tom Hanks was the first celebrity to get COVID, and they're like, oh my God, if a celebrity can get COVID, then I suppose I can. They're already doing this again, where they're because I cover pop culture and news like that, so I'm seeing all these articles like celebrity gets this, celebrity gets this. So they're already saying like Whoopi Goldberg gets COVID for the 3rd time, and everybody's shocked, but it's because they're already starting to roll out the article propaganda when they start trying to reinstate these things.
things. Thanks for watching this clip from the
That is really funny. And then they're like, oh, if you would have got the thing, you know, then it protects all of us. But all these people have this stuff, and how are they still getting sick? Makes you wonder. But yeah, this stuff is crazy with Trump. They're trying to remove him from the ballot and everything. It's not going to work. If it's going to go to the Supreme Court or something, but they're right, even if New York can get it done. But again, they're going to go to the Supreme Court, and it's just going to get shot down. I'm like, you can't do this. I don't know if they convict him of it. Who knows? But the Supreme Court's so conservative. But it's a year. Joe Biden replaces another justice. Who knows what will happen? So I mean, stay vigilant. Keep trying to get the word out about how bad Biden is. Even if people don't like Trump, okay, well, look at how bad Biden is. Look at how bad the left is. Don't make it about Trump. Some people are just never gonna like, Trump derangement syndrome. Some people just don't like him that much. They're never gonna like him. But you can get them to not vote if they hate the left. They're like, well, I don't want either of them, right? So you could, try that strategy. And let's just keep pushing forward because, if you don't think the vote counts just like because of the election stuff from 2020, I get it. But look, Trump still almost won, even with all of that. And there's probably a lot of that stuff going on in 2020. So if you overwhelm the system, you can still win. But that's just more because that system is working against us. So keep pushing. Make sure you stay calm. Like I've said before, people want something. They want to do this stuff and make some crazy thing happen in the media to push everyone the other way. Don't let it happen. That's what they did with J6. Just stay calm, convince people the good old-fashioned way of conversation and just simple facts. And you're not going to convince everybody. Just accept that. Some people just won't accept it no matter how bad stuff gets. So just go on to the person that maybe you can convince. All right, but with that, let's move on to the next story. One of America's busiest airports are overrun by migrants. Here's a clip.
Well, the border battle continues. A federal judge has given Texas 1 week to take down that floating barrier that you see right there in the middle of the Rio Grande.
I covered that in another video. If you didn't see it.
Isn't alone in the crisis. In the city of Chicago, as you can see, that black curtain screen right.
This is wild.
Is how the fourth busiest airport in America is sheltering over 400 migrants. They're on the other side of that curtain. That's up from the 31 that were there in the beginning of August.
It's just going to keep going up.
What he's been seen on the ground is our buddy, Chicago reporter William Kelly. William, good morning to you.
Good morning. Thank God.
Yeah. Listen, so what's the deal? They get 433 migrants at an airport. An airport doesn't have really good bathrooms. I don't know about showers. What are they going to eat? This seems like a dumb idea.
Well, they're already complaining about the food. Steve, it's only the O'Hare Airport is only one of 18 migrant shelters in the city of Chicago. And the last time I was at O'Hare doing a story, it was on homeless Americans living at O'Hare. Well, the city of Chicago has kicked the homeless Americans out of O'Hare to make room for the migrants.
This is wild. So now there's more homeless on the street.
Mayor Johnson campaigned as the people's mayor. Sadly, the people are telling me that he's the migrants' mayor.
And it certainly
seems
looks
that way.
like that.
Yeah.
So, William, are the migrants on the other side of the TSA checkpoint? Do they have to go through security to get to this location they're at?
I don't think security applies to them. I don't think any
homeless people didn't either.
Requirements that Americans are expected to background checks or in all seriousness,
this is
wild. The city of Chicago has
wild.
not recovered from the lockdowns and the looting of Lightfoot. Now we are in the throes of the violent crime and the migrant crisis of Mayor Johnson. This is, there are millions upon millions of
Why
dollars
do people
being spent on
Chicago
this
vote
migrant
this way?
crisis.
It's nuts.
Nobody knows where the money is going, what it's being spent on. There was a time where millions upon millions of dollars would, at bare minimum, need to be voted upon and somehow accounted for. But, sadly, Mayor Johnson must have taken Mayor Lightfoot's course at Harvard on media relations because he won't answer my questions.
Yeah, well, famously would not answer your questions. So the big question is, with all those migrants there,
yes.
And given the fact that today here in New York, school is starting, and you got to wonder, those 433 migrants out at the airport, I'm sure there's some children there. It's not like they're going to
there's a lot.
go over
You
to
can see it in the
Hudson
video.
News to learn school.
It is horrifying on every level. One of the migrant shelters in Chicago is directly across the street from my building on Michigan Avenue. So I look out the window, and it's like a scene from Mad Max every single day.
Wow.
So it is a fail on every level, and sadly, the concerns of the people of Chicago are being completely brushed aside.
William,
yes.
Just one real quick final question. We just played a soundbite a little while ago of Mayor Adams here in New York blaming Republicans and Donald Trump for the border crisis in New York. Who in Chicago do the people of Chicago blame for this? The mayor?
Well, the last Republican mayor in Chicago was about 100 years ago, Steve. I'm sure that it's all his fault. But it really,
I know, right?
It really is a fail on every level.
So many.
And the city and the police are not able to babysit the migrants and arrest the violent criminals at the same time. Okay. So the people of Chicago are suffering today, Steve.
And you can really tell that. William Kelly, sir, thank you very much for
so wild. So they're like, what? So the migrants and homeless people don't have to go through security, but other people do. I guess they're not getting on the plane, but still, how is the city of Chicago just able to circumvent the whole policy of the TSA? They're like, okay, well, we don't care if they go through security. What if they go buy a plane ticket and just get to skip through security? That is wild. This seems like quite a loophole there. But this is insanity. This is what's turning Chicago, people from Chicago in New York, like I keep saying, over to the right. Because it's like, why would you want to live like this? They're taking all your money and giving it to the migrants. The homeless Americans, they're getting kicked out, sent into the streets. And now there's just more people on the streets, no matter how you look at it. Either the migrants are going to be there, homeless Americans are going to be there. They're all homeless, really. So now there's just all on the street where people in from America, before the migrants arrived, they were staying in the airport, I guess, which I don't know if that's a good idea, especially with the security checkpoint. And why isn't the airport space being used for stuff that should be used for an airport? That's really confusing to me. You go get more TSA checkpoints or something, better shopping. It's what an airport's for. But no, they're going to house migrants and homeless people because the city has gone that downhill. That is insane. It's just insane. This is what leftist policies get you. And then it's crazy. The people in these cities keep voting for the left. They're like, we'll get another person on the left and it'll be fine. But people on the left in general are just, this is what they're going to do. I really hope people are really waking up to this. I saw a video for, I think it was like April, of it was a black community, and they were in like the city hall meeting. I don't know if it's actually a city hall or whatever, but this guy had like a build the wall sign, and people had those type of shirts. They weren't like, didn't have Trump shirts that I saw, but they had signs and stuff like that, like build the wall and stuff like that. So that's just a slow, just drifting people over to the left, or from the left to the right, because, they're really starting to really break down. It's instead of, okay, you in these communities, like a black community, you're like, the mayor's going to help us, they're going to get reparations or whatever. People on the left think in these communities, and then it's just like, oh, actually, all the money you just spent, you just spent it all on immigrants. So even people on the left, they're going to be like that and want that type of stuff. They're going to be like, okay, wait a minute, they didn't give us, they don't give us anything. They gave it all to the migrants, and it's already all gone within a few months. When we were born and raised here, why didn't we get anything? So it's like, okay, they're just not ever going to give it to us. It was all just a lie. I think they're starting to wake up to that, because even if you could convince them to do that, it's like, then they're just going to give it to someone else. So it's like, yeah, no. So it's just hurting them. It's hurting them. It's unfortunate the city's going through this and all this stuff is happening, but it's just going to backfire on these guys. And I just don't understand how the left isn't realizing this and trying to change past. But it's like someone in Chicago at this point, the mayor of Chicago, what is he going to do? right? Unless Biden steps up and like Mayor Adams from New York, he's telling Biden, come on, help us. And Biden's like, no, I'm not going to do it. So it's just like, it's going to be very, very interesting in the 2024 election. And that's why they're trying to remove Trump for the ballot, trying to get him convicted, because look at these policies. They can't win. But with that, let's move on to the next and final story. Immigrants overrun New York City, paving the way for Trump 2024 win over Biden. Here's a clip.
Eric Adams basically describes the apocalypse for New York City due to a wave of illegal immigrants in a shocking video saying, we're done. 10,000 illegal immigrants per month. And he does not see a solution to the problem. It's fascinating.
Even Eric Adams seems like he's like moving to the right in a way. You know, on this issue anyways, he's done.
Because a viral tweet has emerged in which Eric Adams said that New York will always be a sanctuary city.
Yeah, good one. How'd that work out for you?
You know, it's fascinating. People who live on the borders and who live in rural areas are experiencing these problems.
It's a joke.
Are talking about the problems of mass illegal immigration. And in big liberal bastion cities, they say, oh, you're overreacting, and they resist.
Yeah. What do you think now?
Happens. The governors of these states start sending the illegal immigrants to the sanctuary, saying, fine, if you're happy with it, if you like what's going on, we'll send them your way. And oh no, now New York is doomed. Really.
And now you care.
It really is fascinating. People who don't experience the problem, celebrate the problem, mock you for it. If only there was a solution, perhaps some kind of physical structure that would inhibit, slow down, or prevent illegal immigration into this country. If only there was a man who had proposed such a structure. You get it. Walls aren't perfect.
Yeah.
Fences aren't perfect, but
not
they're
perfect.
Deterrents.
Yeah.
The left likes to post these videos of people cutting through the bollard fencing, and it's like, that's not an argument against walls. It's an argument for more walls.
Yeah.
Donald Trump famously wanted to build that wall, a big, beautiful wall, 30 feet tall.
It's like if someone's breaking into your house and they're like, well, the locks don't work. Might as well just not lock my door. No, you get better locks. You get a better door. You get a security system. You don't just go and stop like at a security alarm. You get cameras. You don't just be like, just whatever. They're just going to break in no matter what. So might as well just not even try. That's basically what they're saying.
I'd see. And instead, we got bollard fencing. In some areas, triple layered. Did secure key areas that were problematic. And so I'll take it. I'll take whatever I can get. In fact, now it appears that even Joe Biden is still, because of course they would be, shoring up some of the border security.
Yeah.
But it's still a big problem.
Yeah. I mean, he says that, but this comes the same day as a federal judge, because of a Biden administration lawsuit, just said, no, Texas, you can't have the buoy wall anymore. That's in the Rio Grande. So, okay, he says he's shoring up security, but how so? It doesn't seem like it. It just seems like it's going backwards.
Now we get to see not a story about hypocrisy, but a story of ramifications.
Mm-hmm.
And for all of you Democrats in New York City, you voted for this and you deserve it. However, you don't deserve what happens next if you adapt and address the issue. If you change your voting patterns, if you reject these policies, if you actually pay attention for once, then you deserve better. But if this is what you vote for, this is what you deserve. I want to play for you the clip in question. We have this from NYC.
Even past voting, it's like the rhetoric. You want to go and say you can't be on the right if you're part of a certain community. I covered this last week about a Latino woman. She wanted to leave. She's from Texas, a Republican county. I think she's an attorney there. I can't remember exactly. But she's switching to Republican. She said she wanted to do it for a while. But people would shame her. Oh, you're Latina and you're supposed to be on the left. So, I mean, that type of rhetoric, too. You got, like, if you know someone that's like that, but they hate this, all the policies, you even past voting, you got it. The whole culture has to change. It has to be like, no. It's fine to be on the right. It's better to be on the right because look at the policies that are on the left. Really, it's probably best to be in the middle to some extent, but you get my point. These super leftists that want all this, the migration, the welfare, the bigger government, that type of, it's not good.
It is Mayor Eric Adams telling everyone this is the apocalypse. And
That's
I want to
wild.
stress what this means. Trump is right now projected to win. If the election happened today, analysts believe Trump would win. Although, in the polling, it is a statistical tie between Trump and Biden. Trump has the edge, the margin of error being around 3%. Trump is up by 8%, so we don't know for sure. But the way things are trending, even CNN points out, never in 2019 or 2020 did we see a poll where Trump was ahead of Biden in this way. So take a look at what's happening to Democrats
He's
who
destroying.
have mocked the right, mocked Trump, and mocked Republicans.
Support. And let me tell you something, New Yorkers. Never in my life have I had a problem that I did not see an ending to. I don't see an ending to this.
Wow.
I don't see an ending to this. This issue will destroy New York City.
It already is.
Destroy
Destroying it.
New York City. We're getting 10,000 migrants a month. One time we were just in Venezuela. Now we're getting Ecuador. Now we're getting Russian-speaking coming through Mexico. Now we're getting Western Africa. Now we're getting people from all over the globe have made their minds up that they're going to come through the southern part of the border and come into New York City. And everyone is saying it's New York City's problem. Every community in this city is going to be impacted. We got a $12 billion
You didn't know this before.
deficit that we're going to
$12
have
billion.
to cut. Every service in this city is going to be impacted. All of us. And so I say to you, as I turn it over to you, this is some of the most
away from the left.
educated, some of the most knowledgeable, probably more of my commissioners and deputy commissioners and chiefs live in this community. So as you ask me a question about migrants, tell me what role you played. How many of you organized to stop what they're doing to us? How many of you were part of the movement to say, we're seeing what this mayor is trying to do and they're destroying New York City? It's going to come to your neighborhoods. All of us are going to be impacted by this. I said it last year when we had 15,000. I'm telling you now, with 110,000.
Wow.
The city we knew,
Doubled.
we're about to lose. And we're all in this together. All of us. Staten Island saying, send them out to Manhattan. Manhattan is saying, send them out to Queens. Queens is saying, send them out to Brooklyn. No. It's not the game we can play.
This is costing money, more money, sending them around.
This is basically the announcement that Donald Trump is going to win.
Yes.
Okay, look, I don't know what happens in the next year.
Could you imagine if Trump got New York because the mayor is starting to talk about this? New York City? That would be wild.
A lot can change.
Or
But Ann Coulter was
Illinois.
talking about how immigration is on the ballot. And ladies and gentlemen, you're hearing it right now.
Of course it
You're a fan of
is.
hers for whatever reason, you like or dislike her. The point she made was immigration's on the ballot. I think she's right.
She's
I don't know
definitely
to
right.
what, she said it was the principal issue, perhaps.
It probably will be.
Here's a
It's
funny
just going to
tweet
keep getting worse.
From Eric Adams. We should protect our immigrants, period. Yes, New York City will remain a sanctuary city under an Adams administration. October 20th, 2021.
That didn't age well.
You deserve it. Every sweet word emitted from your mouth, Eric Adams, you deserve everything happening to you. And everyone in that city deserves everything that comes next. Austerity measures, severing of services. Oh boy. You mock and you insult, not just Donald Trump.
Yeah, they thought Texas
but
would handle
anybody
it.
who
Nope.
has the gall to say, this is a problem. And now you're experiencing it. They've done you the favor. And you hear what he said about what these people are doing to us? The city you love will be gone. Wow. Some of the most vile white supremacist rhetoric I've heard in a very long time. Blaming those people, Eric Adams? Oof, heavens me. Whatever, man. That's one of the reasons I leave New York City. I don't know. Bombs were going off and people were rioting. So I was like, probably don't want to be here.
Yeah, and a lot of other
Mismanagement?
things.
That's an understatement. And it's already a heavily taxed city. One of the few cities with its own income tax. Meaning, if you live in New York, you've got federal, state, and city income tax. Why? To pay for all of the problems they create. But by all means, people, keep living there. Because if you're happy, then fine, so be it.
I guess if you're happy,
it's gonna be real interesting, real quick. It already is. From the Daily Mail. Speaking to furious residents at a town hall meeting on Wednesday, he admitted he doesn't see a solution to the problem as he slammed the lack of help from Joe Biden. Never in my life have I had a problem that I did not see an ending to. Well, that's too bad. Authorities are concerned that without an exit ramp,
maybe if he didn't see the beginning either. He's like, a problem I didn't see the ending to. It's like, you didn't see the beginning of the problem either. This was obviously going to happen. But like I said, these mayors, they don't think anything's going to come to them. They're like, Texas can handle it. I'm just doing the leftist thing. I'm going to get votes. I'm going to become a mayor. That's what he thinks. He didn't anticipate Texas going like, oh, no. Okay, fine. You take them. You guys take them. We can't afford it either. Why should we have to raise taxes on our citizens when we're actually trying to build the wall? And the Biden administration and other leftists and stuff with their talking points like Gavin Newsom and from governor of California talking trash about Texas and everything. Fine, you guys deal with it. Why should our citizens have to pay for what you guys want? And again, the border wall was already funded, and they're just sending off materials for pennies on the dollar. So build the wall, and we wouldn't have to worry about this. Like Tim was saying earlier, that walls aren't perfect, obviously, but it's a huge deterrent. A huge deterrent. And the whole rhetoric of being able to come here with asylum seekers. What is it, 3 years? It's like you get 3 years to go into an asylum case, and 75% of the asylum seekers get denied asylum. So they come here for 3 years for basically no reason. It's not good for anybody. Do you know how bad they must feel when they have to go back to their home country? They must feel terrible. It's like, I've been here, I've been homeless, I've been sleeping on the streets this whole time for 3 years trying to learn English, trying to get by, and now I just have to go back? The rhetoric that these coyotes, these smugglers send these people is awful. And considering how easy it is for these guys to get in, I could see why these people from these other countries think they can. But no, they should be like, no, you can't get asylum. We don't do that anymore. Like, plug all of that up. The left and the right should just agree with that. Plug all of it up. But they don't want to. They want to just go in their rhetoric like Mayor Adams is doing, and it's like, okay, no, I'm going to get votes from it. It's gonna be great. But yeah, now you can see the problem and why people for this whole time were like, hey, build the wall. We can't afford it. Yeah, we want people to come here, but come here legally, so we can figure out the situation so everything's not getting overran. But that's not what happened. And the left just said, come, and they did. And now here's the ramifications for it. Even though Texas is sending all these migrants up there, there's still a lot here, and we have to deal with like border security. A bunch of our police have to go get redirected, National Guard, to the border. It is wild, and all that tax money. And I think it's funny because the winter storm, they're like, Texas sucks. Look at the infrastructure. Look at the power failed and all this stuff. And it's like, well, we can't go and upgrade the power and put federal or state government funding towards this stuff because the border. It's just like they want to mock Texas for everything. Oh, you're sending your migrants up there and you can't afford it because you have all these migrants, but then you can't also do the power grid. Oh, you guys suck. It's just like, now look at New York. They're cutting every single one of their services are going to get cut to some extent. Now you know how it is. It's not easy when you have to deal with all this stuff that the feds are supposed to be dealing with. You know what I mean?
Situation could soon reach boiling point as furious protesters have clashed on the streets of the 5 boroughs, while more migrants are left homeless by the limited space.
It's wild.
You see, these people, they voted against securing the border. They mocked it. Ocasio-Cortez lied left and right.
And people voted
about
for
what
her.
was really going on the border. Concentration camps.
Yeah. Did they not realize like people that vote for Cortez and for Adams, like I've said, these type of things, it has an impact. Cortez, you voted for her, she's in Congress, and then Congress has sway to go and change this stuff. But nope, go vote for her. Open borders, and now this is what you get. I don't mean to sound harsh. I'm not going so in on like Tim's trying to be here. Like, you deserve every little bit of it. I'm going to be a little bit more friendly about it, but you can change it. Just keep that in mind. But yeah, if you did, people, I hope are realizing like who you vote for has some consequences, even locally. They just think, okay, check L or R on the ticket, and then that's it. No. You should go find out your primary. People in the primary are primary, city council, mayor, everything, and then you learn who they are. It has consequences. The people just think, oh, it's president. I'm going to go and support the president. And then, okay, well, then you can put all the eggs in that basket, even though you don't even know who they are. And then you get this.
All voted for her. So let me just say, I am left with no endless pleasure when I say this is what you voted for. And it brings me a schadenfreude satisfaction to see you now reap what you have sown. Okay. I'm a reasonable person. I hope that the experience you are having results in you all waking up and
That's what I'm saying.
Perhaps we need to stop this. Maybe you'll consider
you
voting out
so.
Ocasio-Cortez, who was in favor of these immigration policies. I'm not going to hold my breath.
Yeah, me
It's
either.
simple. I'm just going to choose not
Who
to
knows,
live in
though?
that state where
Who
a
knows,
bunch
though?
of
It's getting bad.
ill-informed egotists vote for policies that destroys everything around them and then blames everyone else. They call it the locust effect. They come into New York, they vote for nonsense based on nonsensical things, emotional reasons, hatred. They bring in policies which destroy their city. Then they move out to areas where you have maintained things, vote for the same policies again, ravage and gut and destroy.
Yeah, it's wild. I have this story I've told before, but it's really interesting. I live here in Austin. I was getting my hair cut downtown. I live near downtown. And I overheard this guy talking to another stylist, and he was just like, yeah, I'm from the Bay Area. It's gotten so bad there. And then she's like, oh, really? Why? And he's just like, I've lived there my whole life, and it's really changed. Oh, what changed about it? Oh, everyone's just such an elitist because, that it's such a tech hub and everything. I've just started snickering. I'm thinking, like, that's what you're worried about? It's funny. I told my Uber driver about that on the way back, and he's just like, "Yeah, that's insane. All those problems that they have." And we got more specific with YouTube and everything. But yeah, and that's like, you don't realize this. What are you doing in Austin? Luckily, I hope I think he's just visiting or staying here short term. But man, it's like, don't move to Austin if that's what you think. It's like, stay in San Francisco. Don't be worried about the elitists. It's fine. Just stay there.
Locusts eating all of your crops from one crop field to another. The people who live here are going to flee the crisis they've created. They're then going to vote for the exact same policies that brought the crisis in the first place. Welcome to the cycle.
Yeah, it's wild.
The city has a legal obligation to give shelter to those who make their way to the metro, and Adams has desperately turned to a variety of city landmarks, makeshift shelters, and temporary housing as short-term solutions. Almost every decision he makes over the issue has caught the ire of New Yorkers. I'm sorry. This is just so awesome. New Yorkers who vote 4-1 for the Democrats are now angry about it. You're angry about voting for a mayor who outright said you will be a sanctuary city. You got what you voted for.
You got what you wanted.
I'm chilling. It's not just New York. Take a look at this from the Daily Mail. Hundreds of migrants are hidden behind a black curtain at Chicago's O'Hare Airport as desperate families are left sleeping on the floor for up to 10 days after being flown in from Texas. I love this. I absolutely love this. Take a look at this story.
Okay, that makes
Federal
sense.
judge orders Texas to remove floating border barrier. Abbott immediately appeals the ruling. You can't blame Texas. Texas is actually trying to stop the migrant crisis.
Yeah.
Trying to create a barrier to prevent the flow of illegal immigration. And a federal court said no. Thanks, Joe Biden. Thank them all. All the Democrats
they're the ones who
voted
sued.
for.
The Biden administration
So all
sued.
I can really say is maybe the suffering you are enduring right now will wake you up to the problem that is uncontrollable mass illegal immigration. I mean, I'm of the opinion that everybody in the world should come to America. Every single person, every human being everywhere should come to America. Now, hold on there a minute. It's got to be done legally, through a legal process, which means fill out the paperwork, wait till we have proper economic placing, and of course it actually...
Yeah, and then also maybe vote in your own country how you would want America to be. It's always so broken to me. People are like, we want to come to America because it's so capitalist and so awesome, and then they come here and a lot of people want to be socialist. This is the socialist experiment. You want to help everybody? You want to give stuff to everyone, whoever wants to come here? Well, this is what happens. It's just not realistic. It falls apart. Then how you can't pay for everything. Math is math. It's just like you only have so much money. There's only so much wealth to go around. That's like Tim saying, you bring people in slowly. Otherwise, this is not going to work out for anyone. And like I just said, vote for, it's crazy that socialism is so huge in Venezuela and stuff. And then what's the biggest country that migrants come from right now? It's Venezuela. It's like you guys voted for all this. If you wanted America so bad, why don't you vote for candidates that want to be more like America? You have the power to vote in these countries. Like wake up to this stuff. Everyone around the globe needs to wake. And that's baffling to me. I'll repeat it one more time. Like people want to come to America, but then they vote. They want to come to America so bad when their country gets bad because of socialism. But then the candidates are like, hey, we don't want to be like America. We want to be like socialism. Then socialism happens and then they run to America. It's crazy. They can't vote, so they're not supposed to anyway, so I doubt they're voting for socialism, but you could just see people on the left that do like socialism. Look at people are fleeing from socialist countries, and then look at what socialism's doing to your country or your city, all of it, because now you have to pay for all these people. Socialism doesn't work at all.
Migration would probably go down to a certain degree, especially the illegal immigration. But what I mean to say is, if you want to come here, apply. We'd love to have you. We've got to find out where it makes sense for you to go. We can't just let people randomly come into this country through the southern border that's open, because that results in crime and drug trafficking and human trafficking.
And just overflowing.
A lot of people coming through are just looking for a better life, and I absolutely respect that.
Again,
America's awesome.
Should have voted for
There's a reason
better.
why we have a process.
Better
Imagine if
politicians
everybody
in your own
was
country,
trying to rush to the counter of McDonald's to order a cheeseburger. Nobody would get to. It would be bedlam. People would start leaving. That's why we form a queue, so we can take turns and do everything in an orderly way so that we can all benefit fairly.
Yep.
The people jumping the queue and coming to the country are just causing problems. They're trying to reap benefits without playing by the rules.
They're just living on the street
awful.
anyway.
That is despicable.
They're living on the street.
And so I got to
It's
tell
not good for them either.
The people from Central America who are coming to this country, from these various countries that Eric Adams mentioned, I have infinitely more respect for than many of these lefty Democrat types that are burning the country to the ground. Because at the very least, the people coming here believe in the American dream. These leftists hate America. They're probably gloating.
Some of them burn their own country to the ground and they want to come here next.
That Texas, let me read this quote. Governor Abbott announced that he was not asking for permission for Operation Lone Star, the anti-immigration program under which Texas constructed the floating barrier. Unfortunately for Texas, permission is exactly what federal law requires before installing obstructions in the nation's navigable waters. Federal District Judge David A. Ezra wrote in his order issuing a preliminary injunction to remove the barrier. Yeah. In Arizona, they set up a bunch of shipping containers to create a makeshift wall. And they were instructed to remove those as well, because the Biden administration is trying to intentionally destroy this country. Look, man.
Yeah, why not let the states do it?
I try to give people the benefit of the doubt when I can, but there is no logical reason to stop the border barriers in Arizona or here in Texas. Now, don't get me wrong. With Texas, like, oh, okay, they're blocking navigable waters. That doesn't explain why they're trying to shut down the wall itself, why they resist it, and why they're allowing this to persist. It doesn't explain why they have the policy of letting them come in and then flying them around the country. It doesn't explain why Joe Biden's administration was smuggling children on planes. Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
Taking
Sure
migrant,
did.
illegal immigrant children, putting them on planes and flying them across the country.
They don't even know if they were with their real
So the
families or
least
who they.
that
It's
Texas
awful.
And Florida and Arizona, those states. these other
With kids, it's really bad. So what they'll do because of the asylum, they'll come in with a guardian, whatever, and they'll be like, where's your family? And then they fly or bus these people to like a sponsor. They don't have to be related. They don't even know if they're their family. They don't know who they are. So they'll take these kids, send them to these sponsors, and then they work in indentured servitude. And they're basically slaves to these people. It's horrific. It's absolutely horrific. And the left, when they hear this stuff, they're like, no, that's not true. It's like, look into it. It's pretty easy. So you're like, all these open border policies to help people. It's awful. You're creating all these extremely messed up situations for kids. Extremely. They're like undescribable. Because you have some stupid agenda, and then these criminals can just come in and just do all this. It's nuts. And then the people that are legit that come in with their kids or whatever, they're all sleeping on the streets or in airports. They're not getting jobs. That's a part of the legal process. You can go and get an employment visa to come work. You can solely learn English, and then it makes it way easier to get employment in the United States. If they just come in here, they don't have a weird work visa or anything, and they can't work. It's like they just live on the streets. It's just awful. So no one is winning in this situation. No, I don't know who's winning. The criminals. That's it. These awful criminals that do this stuff to these kids. That's who's winning. Everyone else everyone's losing.
States can do is say, fine, if you want illegal immigrants to come to your city, your sanctuary city, we'll send them to you.
Yeah.
But now look at the crocodile tears.
It's still so bad, though. I'd rather them just not come in.
But let's talk about where this goes. I hope you enjoy this one from CNN.
Within the margin of error, no clear leader. Donald Trump, 47%. Joe Biden, 46%. They're basically in a statistical tie. But what I will note was there was not a single poll conducted by CNN during the entire 2020 cycle in which Donald Trump got a higher share of the vote than Joe Biden did.
That's
so
wild.
This is a vastly different picture from what we saw 4 years ago.
That is some very interesting context in all of this. What it means, we will see.
What it means is...
Yeah, that's really interesting. I have a friend who leans right. He's kind of like Ron DeSantis because he thinks Trump's going to go to jail. So imagine if Trump wasn't getting indicted. It's probably, I know it's boosting his poll numbers, but at the same time, I don't know. He might even have more supporters if he wasn't getting indicted, because that guy is just like, hey, he's probably going to go to jail. I'm like, I don't think he's going to go to jail. But I see his point. That's why he doesn't support him. Ian Crossland, the guy from Timcast IRL, Tim's other nightly show, he says the same thing. He's just like, what if Trump goes to jail? I can't support him in case he goes to jail. So my point is, his poll numbers would probably even be higher. But it's hard to say, because my support for Trump was waning earlier in the year. He was just, been there, done that. I get it. But, it's kind of just the same thing over and over again. And then he got indicted. And then he became very, very interesting to me again. It's just like, you can't just go and do this, make up charges and stuff, because look at the precedent it's gonna set. And now with like the mug shot and everything, it's like really entertaining, So, yeah, I wanted Dave Smith to win, the Libertarian. I thought, he's been on Rogan and Timcast and stuff. Look him up. You'll probably recognize him. But people are talking about him running for the Libertarian nomination. I thought that if Trump didn't get indicted, my thought was Dave Smith could go on that debate stage. I've heard him debate people about Trump, and he does a really good job. So he would have really good points against Trump, really good points against Joe Biden. I was like, he might pull votes from both and actually end up winning. And I thought the media would show crazy for Dave Smith because they wouldn't think he would be able to win. Third-party people never win. But I think Dave Smith was articulate enough and everything. He could have pulled it off. He's such a good speaker and good debater. He's really logical and he's really entertaining in his own right. He's a comedian, stand-up comedian. So yeah, he's really sharp. So I thought he could pull it off. But that once Trump got indicted, that first indictment in New York, I was like, oh no. Now I don't even think Dave should even win, because people, even if Dave comes in here and goes on the debate stage and does a really good job against Trump and points out his flaws, people are just going to vote for Trump because of the indictments and the precedent that it's going to set. So yeah, it's very interesting. If they wouldn't have indicted Trump, it probably would have just went better for them. But they were so scared of winning. And like I said, though, they don't think Dave Smith can win. I thought he could, but like at that scenario I just laid out, but they were so scared. They're like, no, we're not giving that a shot.
Right now, Trump will beat Biden. It doesn't mean that it's a guarantee. It means as of right now, if the election were held today, Trump wins. Why? Trump lost by only 42,000 votes in 3 states. You think polling now above Biden for something CNN says never happened in the 2020 cycle? Yeah. I think it is a fair assessment to say if the election happened right now, Trump wins.
Yeah.
I think immigration plays a huge role in this.
I think it's just going to get better for Trump because of the immigration.
The New York Times writes,
it's going to keep
consistent
getting worse.
signs of erosion in black and Hispanic support for Biden. It's a weakness that could manifest itself as low Democratic turnout, even if Trump and Republicans don't gain among those groups. Bingo. They say Mr. Biden leads Trump by just 53% to 28% among registered non-white voters in a compilation of Time Siena polls from 22 and 23, which includes over 1,500 non-white respondents. The results represent a marked deterioration in Biden's support compared to 2020 when he had more than 70%. So let's consider this. Trump doesn't gain with these communities. There's a lot of arguments that Trump's doing better in the black community, and they said the same thing last time around. But if Biden loses, well, there you go. If Biden is losing support among these groups, and he is precipitously, Trump doesn't.
I think the left in general is
42,000 votes. That's all Trump needed. Okay, let's say Biden loses 30,000, and Trump only gains a few thousand. I mean, look, if Biden loses by 40, if Biden loses 42,000 votes, Trump won. Trump does not need a single new supporter if Biden loses.
But he's gaining them like crazy anyway.
So this is why they are pulling out all the stops, and they're trying to remove Trump's name from the ballot. We talked about this last night. Now Colorado, Arizona, New Hampshire, Florida. I don't see it happening in Florida. New Hampshire is a debate between certain Republicans. Should be interesting. We'll see.
It'll go to the Supreme
Arizona,
Court,
maybe. We'll see what happens. Now, across the board, the AGs are saying, like, no, we can't do this. But the lawsuits are coming. They are going to try everything in their power to steal political power.
Yep.
That's the scary nature of where we're currently at. Earlier this morning, I did a segment about Owen Schroyer. He was outside the Capitol.
Yeah, I'll cover that tomorrow.
On the grass, so he's been criminally charged. And they said his speech is a factor in why he deserves to go to prison.
Outrageous.
Before, during, and after. That's right. His protected speech after the event, where he celebrated to a certain degree, what he said, he said something like, to a certain degree, we should be proud. I certainly disagree, but he's allowed to say it.
Yeah, what?
And that's justification for him to go to prison.
To go to prison.
Yeah, a lot of people are frustrated to see this, but you need to understand the most important factor here. The reason they are engaging in this behavior is because Trump is winning. And they know exactly what happens should a man like Trump get reelected.
Oh, yeah.
I have to imagine
Especially
Trump's going to
now.
want revenge.
Yes.
They're saying that in his criminal trial with the national security documents, Trump will be testifying in his own criminal case. Now, typically, you're not supposed to do that. They say, don't testify.
Yeah, Trump would do a great job, though.
Do. Rittenhouse
he'll convince
Trump
a jury.
wants to because Trump wants to rally. Trump knows that him speaking in his defense will be one of the most powerful speeches or statements he ever gives. Sitting in a courtroom, being asked a question by the defense counsel, his lawyers, and then him being able to say what he wants to say. When it comes to the election charges from from Georgia and the federal government, which is coming out of D.C., I think that Trump and his lawyers are looking at it like, well, we will now be able to adjudicate the claims made in court for the American people to hear.
Yep.
That's partially why I think they're like, okay, we'll come in and we'll surrender. Trump and his team, these people being charged, have been trying for a long time to get their claims heard in open court. And it's going to be very interesting when the defense says, here's evidence of voter fraud sworn under oath and signed affidavits in a criminal proceeding. I wonder how
that should be really interesting.
In the meantime, outside of all of that,
it's just backfiring on them.
Look at the things they're doing.
It seems like they have a strategy.
Going after Trump supporters, it's because they know when Eric Adams comes out and says this city will fall and there is no solution moving forward, and I don't know
they're going to vote for Trump, and Biden won't help them. Yeah.
You're going to get a lot of people.
Why would they vote for Biden again? People in New York. Eric Adams is openly talking all the time. I'm asking Biden for help. He won't give us any. Same thing with Mayor Johnson in Chicago. They're like, we're begging the Biden administration for help, and they don't give them anything. So they're out there for the next year. They're going to be out there telling everybody this. All their constituents. Don't blame me. Blame Joe Biden. So even if they might just not vote, even if they don't vote for Trump. And yeah, he's definitely going to come after him. And it's crazy because the first time around, Trump didn't really know who to believe, right? He's just like, okay, this guy says he's good. This guy says he agrees with me. He says he supported me. Okay, awesome. But now, after 4 years of them trying to indict him and everything, and they didn't even know he's going to run again. Look at Ron DeSantis, what he did. He went against him. Brian Kemp, the Georgia governor, he's went against Trump. He said there's no evidence to investigate Fani Willis, the prosecutor who's bringing all these charges, even though they're going after lawyers abusing attorney-client privilege, but there's no evidence. So, but now Trump knows. Now he can be like, okay, all of my lawyers that are helping me with these election fraud cases, like Rudy Giuliani, he's probably going to be the next attorney general, if I had to guess. Giuliani is. He's stuck with Trump like this, like crazy. And these other people that have stood by him, like Matt Gaetz and Lauren Boebert and stuff, they're probably all going to be in his cabinet, and they're all going to be at the top just trying to take all of this out. Where, again, last time when he said, okay, we're going to take the deep state out and stuff, people would just lie to him. They'd be like, okay, we're doing this, but they wouldn't do it. Now he knows who's on his side, so they should be very interesting. And yeah, them being able to show this in open court now, it's wild. It just seems like they're going after Trump so bad, and it's just everything is just backfiring on them. It's really, really fascinating to see. It's like when people say they're panicking. It really does seem like they're panicking. They think Trump's going to win again, or they know he's going to win again. So they're just like, we have to do anything. But then, what happens when you panic? Like if you're drowning and you panic, you drown faster. So, yeah, and you drown for sure. Where if you just chill and swim and wait for a rescue, you're going to conserve energy and you could survive. But you start floundering and just freaking out, pushing people down when they're trying to save you because you're in such a panic. Yeah, you're not going to make it. I think that's what they're doing.
Say, I'm not voting for these people anymore.
Yep.
For one, you're going to get woke, crazy people who say that Adams is scapegoating migrants. I won't vote for him. Okay.
Not very.
You're going to get regular working class people who are going to be like, this is a huge problem and someone's got to deal with it.
When all the services start shutting down.
You'll see a marked shift towards Trump or anybody willing to address illegal immigration.
Yep.
And this means the Democrats cannot win. And it means they can't win in the conventional sense. But with mass ballot harvesting and dirty games, perhaps. The shadow campaign to save the election, they said. I believe that if you were to have a single day of voting, paper ballots, Trump would win by a healthy sum. But we don't have that. The Democrats keep changing the rules, expanding voting and saying, oh, it's about...
I don't even know if it'll matter this time, though.
Yes, spare me, dude. The
Trump almost won last time.
We have an election day.
And they had all that.
And we should have paper ballots. The problem, and there are challenges across the board, right? Paper ballots can get lost. There's a debate between Mike Lindell and others about universal mail-in voting and things like that. Sure, you can get a batch of votes for Trump that disappear and a batch for votes for Biden appear. Who knows? I will say one of the big problems that we have in our elections is that we have a proprietary company. We have proprietary software, a company with proprietary software in the voting machines. We don't know what those voting machines do.
Yeah, exactly.
So I reject that.
There's been a lot of weird stuff from the left.
Timcast, that source code needs to be released to the public.
Before 2020, a leftist organization, I think it was in Georgia, but don't quote me on that, they were in there like saying, hey, we got to get this fixed before the election. And they wanted free, it was like a hacking thing. And these guys were on the left afraid that the right was going to use it. But then right after the election, all that's gone, and let's not talk about it anymore. Don't talk about that. Fani Willis, she's going after the one person in this the Georgia case. She's going after them for a tweet. But then you go look at her tweet, and she was like, when that pipe broke and everything, and she heard about it, she's like, oh, she thought the right was trying to pull something. She didn't know the left was doing it. So how interesting is that? And then she even called it out, but now she's charging other people. Why aren't you getting charged? All this is going to backfire on these people so bad. They're putting all their eggs in one basket. If Trump wins, they are going to go after everyone for this because they set the damn precedent. Like if they actually convict that person and they set that precedent, it'll lose on appeal most likely, but now her life is a living hell. Now she has to go through all this, and she's the one who created it. She's like, no, it's a crime. It's like, well, you did the same thing. It's so weird. These people, like I said, it's like full panic mode. Well, her, it's like different because she wants to get reelected. She wants to get campaign money. She probably wants to run for governor based on this or something like that. But you're not worried about getting tied up for election interference? Because it's definitely looking like you can be charged for that. It's fascinating.
The source code for our voting machines should be open and available to the public for review.
Yeah, definitely.
In the time being, I'm not convinced any of our elections are legitimate in the sense. Everyone says everyone's always cheating. Dude, if you think elections are people coming out and saying, vote for me for this reason, and then the other guy be like, well, you should vote for me for this reason, and then everyone signs their name and then we count it, that's not how it works. It's dirty games. It has always been dirty games.
It's always been.
And it will continue to be dirty games.
Yeah, if you ever watch the Leo DiCaprio movie, what's that guy's name? Daniel Day-Lewis. He's in it too. Very, very, very good movie. Check it out. I don't want to spoil anything in it, but in that movie, there's an election, and the people, they're just shaving their beards. They're going in there. They go vote once and they shave their beard. Then they go in there. Then they go out and then they go to the barbershop again and they shave their head. So now they're bald. So that people just don't recognize them. And then they go and vote 3 times. And I'm just like, and this was made in 2002. This kind of an older movie. Great movie though. It takes place in the 1950s, during the Civil War in New York City. But yeah, they even captured that in that movie. Even in the 1850s, there's always been dirty games in elections. So you need election security to make sure it doesn't happen.
Time. At least we can revel in the Democrats suffering under problems of their own making. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m. on this.
Yep, exactly. It's like the left is shooting themselves in the foot, like I've been saying this whole segment. I think they're going to lose. What are they going to do? They can't go back on this, and they're not even trying to. They think that the whole woke left is like everybody, apparently, where real working class people, they vote on the left because that's what they think they're supposed to do or whatever. But it's not working out for them. And they're seeing that, and the cities are getting overran, and they could see that Biden's not doing anything for them. So, and majority people have been coming farther to the right. More people have been coming out of the right anyway. So yeah, that Latino woman I mentioned earlier, she's a Republican from Texas, and now she was just like, I got a bunch of shade from people because no, Latino, you're supposed to vote for the left, but then she got brave and did it, and they were saying on that report, maybe her bravery doing that will actually convince more people. No, anyone can be on the right or the left, it doesn't matter. And I think that narrative that the left has always had, the minorities vote for us, I think that's going away. And this is accelerating it to a dramatic amount because they're like, okay, yeah, we've never really liked Democrats that much. What have they done for us? And then now the migrants are all over our sidewalks and everything. And why aren't they helping us out? So yeah, I think it's all going to backfire. 2024 should be very interesting to say the least, and the buildup is going to be very, very interesting. But yeah, I think I'm going to leave it there. I'm starting to lose my voice a little bit. That's interesting. But yeah, definitely appreciate you guys joining me. I do these live shows every single day, and I post clips on social media every day. So definitely check those out. Follow me, subscribe, leave a like. Yeah, and give me a share. Give me some shares. I'd appreciate it. Help spread the word, and yeah, we'll keep spreading this message. It's very interesting stuff. All right, but I will leave it there, everyone. I will talk to you tomorrow. Peace out.